So this heroic core, Degs to the orb, kicks an in-game lead, and then Tessus is the third piece of this puzzle. Shush being the man who gets left out. Rumored to be 10 million, Prof. Does that sound about right to you?
No. Bullshit.
No.
Okay,
but
so it's not 10 million. I've been telling my family it's 10 million.
I mean, even they said like heroic over the year would get 10 million. That includes like the Astralis, Stan and Yabi, Cadian, yeah,
to Liquid. I mean, at that point,
yeah. Right? Then NertZ to Liquid, and now these three. So that would be like 4, 7, 8 players.
Is changing, but one thing remains the same: victories with 1xBet.
Sell in-game items at the best prices in just a couple of clicks. We are the biggest instant sell service for in-game items like Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, and Rust. Easy selling process and instant withdrawal of funds to the most popular payment methods. More than 140,000 deals and 50,000 active sellers every month. Use promo code HLTV5 and get a 5% bonus on the sale of your skins. Skin Place. Sell items now.
Since the dawn of CSGO, we have been there. Observers of all that competition can reveal. Elation, fear, triumph, and heartache reach out from every frame. From the small studios and conference rooms to the epic arenas, the feeling is still the same. We live and breathe this game. This was CSGO Through the Lens. Buy now at HLTV.org/shop.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Counter-Strike fans around the globe, welcome back to another episode of HLTV Confirmed, the final episode of 2024. Quick shout out to our sponsors to make all this possible. 1xBet, remember to gamble responsibly. Where else could you be spending your money? And Skin Place. Are you in the marketplace to sell some skins? Head over to Skin Place. Over 400,000 skins sold on Skin Place. Go check them out. That's the sponsors. That's to kick us off. And as I mentioned, the last podcast of 2024 as the year is coming to the close. I've got Prof, I've got Striker, I've got Lucas pressing the buttons. Gentlemen, Christmas has concluded. What did you get for Christmas, Striker? Anything exciting?
Man, you're putting me on the spot that I was just like blanking so hard at what I actually got because
it was just the other day.
It has to be socks. It has to be socks.
I didn't get any socks this year.
Bro. I got socks from 2 different people.
Oh,
this is how much my Christmas sucked.
Wow.
Yeah. No, it was a good Christmas. I got some nice stuff, which I also can't remember. So I'm just it's the worst thing.
I imagine you guys got too many things if you can't remember what you got.
I actually got quite a lot of small things. Like I got a lot of stuff in the kitchen because I like to cook. So I got an apron. I got a thermometer, which I was missing. I should get a pan for some steak because I never make steak, but I wanted to. So there you go.
There you go. I actually got an air fryer. There you go. It just like literally the food that I just ate was from it like 5 minutes ago, and I couldn't remember.
What's also the best buy we did like in the last 2 years or so.
I was going to say, what's your air fryer review after being recently inducted into the air fryer family?
It's not induction. It's air circulation.
Wow, you're hilarious. He's really on fire at the moment, guys. Stock jokes, induction jokes.
No, it's good, but I used it like twice, so I can't really like give a huge review yet.
Okay, you can do steak in it if you want to give it a go.
Yeah.
Why not?
What's your air fryer life hack?
I'll just put some steak in there, and it's normally pretty thick fillet. I'm doing like, I don't even know the temperature is. There's got a fucking meat button. I press that, and I fucking flicker over, and away we go.
Oh my God.
I only got one present though. Let me see if I can reach this without knocking everything over. 1 second.
All right.
So, as people know, I'm back in Australia at the moment. So my family, my parents, they got me this picture. You won't really be able to see the picture.
I can't really.
But it's of where my apartment is, but back in the 60s.
Whoa.
Okay.
So I live like on the beach. So like this part of Perth back in the 60s was like hustling and bustling. And it's just nice. I got to mount it on the wall. I was trying to do that earlier today, and I couldn't. I pulled the plug out. Needed to drill a deeper hole. Anyway, it's kind of fucked. 1 second. I got to put this back down.
Classic problem. We all have that problem, don't we? Needing to
drilling deeper holes.
Deeper, yeah. But I thought Chad, you would bring that to Europe to like have a memory.
Like a memory of Australia.
I don't think it'll fit in my suitcase, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is pretty big. As you were pulling it out, I'm like, how long does this go?
Yeah,
I know what you.
That's what
I know what you were thinking exactly. I hope
I dropped like
went out.
four bangers in the first 4 minutes. We need to get down to business. That's what I'm saying.
Let's go.
Well, there is a lot to discuss tonight. And we'll get into all of the roster changes and speculation and whatnot in due course. Let's kick off the evening's proceedings, I suppose, with just a bit of a temperature check about the awards for 2024. The top 20 has begun. Now, there's no point me asking Striker any questions about this, at least not off the bat. Yeah. He knows 20 to 1, and he even knows outside of the 20. So he's not going to tell us anything.
I don't know.
No point probing for anything. But I'm not here to probe you, Prof, for anything. Yeah. But you've been monitoring the discourse and the players that have been named at the moment in the top 20. I think Emma was the last one last night. We'll be getting one more today. How's it going from your perspective of all of this, the top 20 so far?
Honestly, pretty good. I know always there's some murmurs, this is bad. This is not good. This guy should have been in, even though people don't even know who is next. That's always fun. But I think the names so far make sense to me. I feel like, Torji is number 20 and people are kind of on the edge about him. But I think he's a guy that had a lot of consistency for MOUZ this year. So I think he deserves to be there in my opinion. But overall, seems pretty good. I think, interestingly enough, almost there's more discourse around some of the other awards, like the panel awards and stuff like that came out, the nominations, and then the finalists that came out, which is kind of interesting to see. Like that part of the awards and everything's kind of new, and I feel like a few years ago no one really cared, but now it's starting to become kind of a part of the culture around end of year.
The zeitgeist.
Yeah, the zeitgeist. Yeah, that's a cool word to use. So I've as much as like sometimes I'm like kind of annoyed by some opinions, at the same time I'm like, as long as people talk about it, I think that's good. Means that it matters in some ways, right?
That's kind of how I approach it nowadays. It's like, of course, like I get the taste of what teams are feeling like when everybody talks about them and like what they do all the time, and like everybody says their shit for this reason and that reason, and I feel like this is the time of the year where I and two of my colleagues get into the same position where everybody's going to question your decisions and what you prefer and whatever. But in the end, I mean, everybody has their own opinion. Everybody has their own criteria as well. As long as you're not just like throwing shit out there just because it's your favorite player, which I also understand, but it's not very reasonable to do that. Then like I'm good with everybody having a discussion, or just like throwing out all the robbed tweets and whatever like that. I've actually kind of enjoyed it this year, even though a lot of the, like, especially once we put out the prediction game, there's even more stakes for people to get it right. So the more pissed off they're going to be that they got it slightly wrong or wrong completely, and so it's it's just it comes with the territory, I guess. So I'm kind of enjoying it.
Yeah, any standouts for you, Chad, since you're like a neutral person in this, from what's come out so far?
Not really. Like, I want to see the complexion of the entire list before I start like critiquing anything too crazily, right? For me, I think we've had this conversation on the show before. This is kind of just an extension of the entertainment element of Counter-Strike, right? Like, and I think, Striker, you have the healthiest opinion on it right there, or at least stance on it, especially with how you're involved in it, because everybody will have a different opinion on these things, right? And I think that if people are talking about it, that's good. That's essentially what this is doing, right? It's meant to just promote more conversation, more entertainment, as it were, right? Like getting to play these games or be involved in the discourse. And anybody can make their own list of, 1 to 100 if they really want. Anyone can go out there and do whatever they'd like. This is just HLTVs, and that's the way it goes. I do sometimes, click on Twitter and I have a look and I go, oh, this seems a little bit exhausting, but you just have to just brush it off and remind yourself that, everyone is entitled to their own opinion. So, nothing. I don't think. I think crazy
something that I found interesting is like I saw some comments. For example, let's say EliGE was he like 17th, 18th, 19th, and then he got like voted for like finalists to top 3 in the opener category, and people are like, obviously, like his peers voted him very high for this, but HLTV ranked him low. Therefore, that is HLTV is wrong for this. I think this is. I mean, you can obviously have your own opinion, but I think this just shows different ways of looking at the quality of a player and what a player provides. Obviously, this is not the opener category, is just like specifically in that category, what he's providing, but also, players and us can have different views on things and can value different things. I think it just gives more ways we can credit good players, essentially. It doesn't have to be, not everything has to come down to the top 20. Essentially, these role awards are there to give credit to people that maybe, because their team was very bad, so they had didn't play a lot of maps, didn't go deep in tournaments, so they couldn't show how they would perform in these situations. They can still get credit and get some rewards in different ways. So I, some people thought of it as a negative, and I see it as a positive, honestly.
Yeah, let's just quickly do this for maybe some of the people listening who haven't been keeping up to date. I imagine our live viewers have been, but we get lots of people giving this a listen. So top 20 so far, coming in at 20 was Torji, at 19 was EliGE, at 18 was ropz making an appearance, Jimmy coming in at 17. And then most recently, last night, was Emma coming in at 16. And then I imagine when does it normally come out, your time? Because I'm on Perth time at the moment.
Every day on the dot.
8 p.m. So in 5 hours from now, essentially, it would be the next player coming out. So that's the name so far. And then for those people who haven't been paying attention, when we go to the award show in Serbia, which is going to be happening on the 11th. So we're under 2 weeks away from it now. That's when the final 3 players and all of these other awards that we'll jump into in a second. I think just to sidebar what I was just saying with that little recap, and just to connect back into where you were going with it, Prof. I think one of the factors with all of this is, and I think this plays into the highlights category as well. It's, how are you grading these things personally? And I think this is probably the most important part, that everybody personally knows how they view these things. So the players obviously have a more of an intimate experience with this. They're practicing against each other all the time. They're watching the demos. They have an appreciation for one another on a different level. But for me, right, like when I look at these, I think it's great that we have these awards and everything like that. I'm not trying to poo-poo it with what I'm about to say. But like for me, the thing that reigns supreme is like team stuff, right? Like winning events as a team. So, looking at the players and being able to idolize some of these guys and be able to go, okay, yeah, this guy was this or this guy was that. I think that's all good and well. But for me, the way I boil down the success of a player is, the trophies that his team are lifting. And you hear that, especially from, Donk just winning the major. I just want to play with my team. I just want, he's got a lot of that rhetoric going out there. And I think from a player perspective, that's the healthiest mindset. You don't want to have the mindset of, I'm sure everybody would love to be the number 1 player in the world or be considered one of the absolute best players in the world. But at the end of the day, the things you want to be is the best team, lifting the biggest trophies, winning the majors, doing all of that. That's what it all boils down to as a competitor. It's victory. Right? And that's the thing that matters most, at least in my opinion. I cut you off, Striker. What were you going to say?
No, I don't even remember, to be honest. But I mean, this whole kind of maybe criticism that we get the most is like we're looking too much at the results, or we're not looking enough at the results, and things like that. For us, it's not even necessarily about the results themselves, rather than, what Prof was alluding to earlier about playing against the best teams consistently, playing deep into tournaments consistently. You don't have to win a lot to score highly. If you're really that good of a player, like you really don't have to. I mean, look at, let's say Simple's 2018, Astralis were the dominant team. Now we won like 2 tournaments versus Astralis' 10, and Simple was still the best player of the year, so, and even quite far ahead of Device, who was the most consistent player of Astralis, right? So it's not necessarily about the results, more about how you perform in that environment, right? That we look at more than anything else, and against the best teams and all that stuff. Like, I mean, people can read into the reasonings and they have a pretty decent idea of what we prefer, right? But yeah, that's always the base conversation, really.
All right. What I want to do right now is the next little piece of this is obviously those panel awards that we were talking about. So just for people who aren't familiar, Lucas, I'm going to put a link in here. You'll be able to bring this up and we can talk over a couple of these as well. But the panel awards is, people from throughout the scene, so pundits, but you've also got like coaches and players who are involved within these panel awards who are voting on a bunch of different categories, right? So the categories, essentially the reason I point that out is because when these things come through, this isn't exclusively like a HLTV decision. This is, it's
minority HLTV. It's like 20 players / coaches, and then 10 broadcasters and 5 people from HLTV. So it just kind of could even be without us. I don't think it would change much, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's like what, 15%? We make up 15% of the decision, so not a lot.
So there you go. So the majority there is being done by that of the players and coaches, right? The people who are on board with this at all times. So and if people are interested with the way the voting gets done, right? It's like, is it 3, 2, and 1 in terms of points, or is it 5?
5, 3, and 1, I think. Yeah,
5, 3, and 1. Yeah. So I think when I look at these, the one like I mentioned just earlier. So just read the categories for everybody. We've got Anchor of the Year finalists. It's Bit, Jimmy, and Zontix. Orp of the Year finalists. We got Monacy, Shiro, Zaiwu. Opener of the Year, we have Donk, EliGE, and Nico. Closer of the Year, Bit, Jimmy, and JL. So some repeats right there. In-game Leader of the Year, Alexi, Chopper, and Carrigan. Coach of the Year, Blade, Hallie, and Cycron. And then finally, the highlights. And the highlights are the Donk 1v5 from the Major that everyone remembers. The ace from JL during
the Deagle ace against G2, right?
Yeah, which was like it really just shifted the discourse of that game quite early. And then Nico's Deagle ace from Pro League. So yeah, you get all of those that everybody can take a little bit of a look at and go and see where they're faring. But I always find my favorite category is always the highlight, because it is
by
category
far the most subjective, man. Like, it's so hard to be consistent about it.
But that's why I like it, is because what do you so can I say what my number 1 was?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so these 3 were the 3 I picked. These the 3 that are here, the 3 that I picked.
Cool.
But the order that I put them in, and I might have to refer to my email. I'm pretty sure. Wait, was it at least it's 2 of the 3. First? I put JL first. JL's the number 1 because it's the most impactful out of all of them, right? Like, I think the one that I think is the most fun to watch is the Nico Deagle. And I remember I clipped it when we were doing Pro League, and like we had it clipped from the death perspectives of the players that he was fragging, and it's fucking sick. Like it for that one, that's the most fun. The Donk one would be cool if they won that map. Like that'd be fucking amazing, right? But I
feel like that one also has most cultural impact. It was most talked about, the Donk one, even though objectively it meant nothing. Like, it didn't change anything in the game. They just won. They won that round, lost the next one, lost the map. GG. So it's always a difficult one to decide these votings. I think these were also like when we were doing like our internal like filtering. There's definitely these were up there. I think honestly, Monacy had a few of them, like the Scout 4K, I think, against Spirit on Anubis. That was, in my opinion, so ridiculous and like kind of a unique highlight. You don't really get stuff like that.
But it was from like spring groups or something, right? Like, I mean, the competition wasn't super.
Pro League.
Was it Pro League?
Could have been Pro. I'm pretty sure it was Pro League.
Yeah, it wasn't like, it wasn't like a huge arena match, so that always like lowers the excitement.
No, but that's like the thing is, if you're only looking for like a skillful round, if that's how people are critiquing like highlight, then the context of that goes out the window, right? To some degree. But that's why, like, for me, it's under the pressure environment. Is it on a stage game? What impact does it have on the overall game? Like, there's a lot of factors for me that play in that, you know, make a play amazing, right? So cool. That's all essentially I wanted to do with this little portion of the show. Prof, anything that the people at home need to know regarding the award show? I got the email. I don't know if I'll be doing the paddle tournament, but I might consider the yoga.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good. I was most interested in that as well. So I think I need that right now. Other than that, no, it's great. We have a lot of people coming. People, you know, a lot of teams coming. Some I don't think we have announced everyone, but we announced the big ones. So Navi also is going to be coming alongside the three that we had before, so Vitality, G2, and Spirit. A couple of others for sure, and all the announcers will be announced soon. Some fun ones there. All in all, yeah, looking pretty much set for that. It's going to be a good vibe.
Okay, nice. All right, let's jump into the main body of tonight's show. Now, I've been working on a song, but I think we'll unveil this one next week.
Skinionaire song.
No, let me see if I can find it. No. It's not regarding the quiz or anything. It's regarding the start of next year, which was something that I had like a countdown several times throughout this year, talking about the end of partner leagues. And then I still had some, and I know people tell me not to get one guide. I didn't get mad. I didn't reply. I'm just using it as a reference point. When I spoke about the Imperial female stuff on Talking Counter, and someone was like, yeah, you don't care that teams are in the top because of partner leagues, but you care that Imperial female are? And I'm not replying to this. And I'm like,
people actually talked about this in the comments. I was like, obviously wasn't pure one guide.
I didn't, after like I saw like the first few comments, like, why has this been like transcribed and put on Reddit? After that, I was like, I'm fucking out. Like I checked back in a few times, like, this is gonna get out of control. So I'm fucking done. I didn't bother. But
you actually had a good, like, you had a positive take on it, no? Like that they actually, like, you were making the argument that they should just like give up Christmas and they should just like go crazy hard, right? That was the take effectively.
That's the gist of it. Yeah.
I like that. I like that take, to be honest, because that's 100% what they should do. I mean, what are you going to do? Like, this is the opportunity of your life, effectively, you know, especially if they do end up qualifying for Katowice too. Like, that's a massive deal. Like, okay, you're going to play an online game. I mean, you're going to play an online game eventually against a decent team, you know, you're going to get invited to something, you know, but like if they actually do make it even to Katowice, like, that's kind of crazy.
We're going to get into it later. We'll save that conversation for the Blast Bounty invites, which is in our other news portion for the end of the show. And I have some questions there that I'll be throwing you guys under the bus with. So we'll see how that goes down. So this song that I'm working on, I want to give everybody a little bit of a prelude to get excited about it for next week. We're going to do a show on the 6th, I believe, time TBD. But I'm using A Whole New World from Aladdin, right? And we're referencing kind of the end of partner leagues. So like the first couple of lines,
gonna get us copyright striked or something.
No,
he's not going to be singing that well. I don't think he's going to be singing that well.
I'm going to have to really hum the tune, right? So I'm going with I can show you the world, open, competitive, merit-based. Tell me, and then I need something here because it's Princess in the song. So this has to be directed at the players. Now, when did you last let your competitive drive decide? Right, that's what I was going with it, you know. And then Valve have opened the playing field. No, I haven't finished it yet. I've got to. Anyway, you guys can see where this is going.
Okay, so I like this.
So we'll see how we can end up. But hopefully the people enjoy it, because we're going to see if we can try a musical career. But from music to money, and I'm talking skins. Right now, we're going to be jumping into Skinionaire, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. You know what to do. Type Skin Plays in chat right now. That is your raffle ticket to enter the draw. We're going to have a bunch of questions. We're going to have Prof and Striker working together as a combination, the dynamic duo. They're going to be battling not against one another, but against me, the quiz master, who's written down a bunch of really bad questions for tonight's episode of Who Wants to Be a Skinionaire, brought to you by Skin Place. That again, Skin Place in chat for your opportunity to potentially win a $50 skin. Now, Lucas, I had asked for a 6th bonus question. Was I able to get the 6th bonus question? Is he here? Lucas,
I am here. I can check. I just copy the questions and then like I see if
He didn't even,
yes, there is
even consider
there
that
is
that's
a
a 6th.
sixth. There is a 6th
Okay.
input here.
Now, I need to ask for permission, but if we get the 6th bonus question correct, Prof, because it's the final show of the year,
we double.
can we give away 2 $50 skins?
Yes.
So we do double raffle, or do we give it to one guy?
Draw. No,
Double
double
draw.
draw. We're
Okay.
spreading the love. We're
All right, let's do
spreading the love. All right.
Okay.
Here we go.
What's the
Question loosely related to the teams who are making roster changes.
Oh shit. Okay.
So it's nothing crazy. Like it's more historical. You guys should be able to get
Okay.
all these. They're pretty easy. I did it. I'm a baboon, mate. We're not talking about some sophisticated Dimitri quiz
Let's do
here
it.
with fucking twists and shit. All right. I'm not talking about the player. I'm talking about twists and turns like Goosebumps novels. All right. Question number 1. ropz joined FaZe replacing which player? Kirby, Olaf, or Beavis?
So this is 22.
Okay. This is more difficult than I would like to admit. So, wasn't it? This is Olaf, right? Olaf is 3 years on the bench.
Yeah.
KRB was there when Nico was there.
Yeah.
Then both of them kind of went away.
Yeah.
And who joined first? Twists and then ropz, right?
Yeah. I
So
mean,
Twists replaced KRB? Question mark? No.
bro, I think Kirby was there for like 2 months, and this was like start of the he joined like middle of the year, and then I don't think it's Kirby. I can't remember where to place
10
Bim out. I think it was before that. So I think you're right with the Olaf punt at the beginning, but I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember how it went.
Let's go with Olaf. Let's go.
Locking in B, Olaf, and the correct answer is Olaf.
There we
All
go.
right. Yeah, you were sweating. I didn't think you'd be sweating, but we are going back
for
a
some
couple
reason,
years.
like 21 is such a forgettable year for FaZe because it was a shit one after Kerrigan came back. It took them until ropz came back for them to really hit some peaks, right? So I could not, literally, I forgot that year. And it's also like half of the online period, so it's very difficult to remember those times sometimes.
All right. Question number 2. Who wasn't on Liquid when Yekinda joined? Adren, OC, or Nitro?
Who wasn't on Liquid?
Did Nitro come in after that? Or not?
I didn't.
Bro,
think they
why
were
would
that hard.
why would Nitro be on the lineup if? Wait.
No,
just
he
a
was
second.
there. They were there together at some point. I just can't remember if they were at the beginning. But I guess this is Adren was there as a coach at the beginning or not?
Let's.
Bro, it's so hard actually.
What
It's
was
so
the
hard
lineup,
to
bro?
remember. Exactly.
What was the
like-
lineup?
Because they changed lineups like a million fucking times, man.
Nav was there.
Yeah. I mean, Yekinder was leading like when Nitro was actually on the team still at some point. So it's definitely not. Yeah, Nitro was there. Adren was Adren coaching when he joined.
Bro, this guy came in and left 7 times.
I don't
This
remember
is so
OC
hard.
being there at that point.
5 seconds.
Let's go with OC. Go with OC. I don't know. I legitimately can't remember.
I can't let it go down like that, guys. I feel like I have to rig it. I can't let it go. I didn't make them hard.
Was it Adren
man.
or?
Yeah, it was a Dren, man.
Okay.
Bro, why'd you put a coach in? Why are you fucking us here? Who
Because
was
I
coaching
thought-
then? Who was coaching?
Daps.
He also came in and out like 5 times. How the fuck am I supposed
I
to
gave
know?
you a
Adren
lifeline.
was in and
it's
out
fine.
like 4 times as well, man. Like, what the hell?
I've given you a lifeline. I've thrown you
Okay.
a life raft thing.
This
in
is such
some water
a setup that he's like, this is gonna be easy, and you're like asking about Liquid that changed 25 times in the last 3 years, man.
I thought they were pretty easy. All right. I made it up in the bath the other day. All right. Question number 3. How many times has Norbert been off VP/Outsiders starting roster? 1, 2, or 3?
Again, go to the questions.
Guys.
I would say 2 times.
All right, let's go over
this is
these.
one. This is obviously one.
Does this count now?
Yes.
Okay, then that's that. Then we have the benching.
When he came back middle of the major, right? That was so
okay.
That's 2. Is there a third one?
I think there was a third one. I think there was a third one before that. There's a third one before that. Was it? There's a third one before that, and I can't put my finger on when it was.
3 then.
But there was
I can't remember that first one, but I guess I don't know.
Locking in 3. Correct answer is 3.
Okay, what's the third one?
The third one is when Mia came on the roster. Do you remember that? Mia was there.
Okay.
And Norbert was injured. So Kickit was playing.
Oh, okay. I didn't remember
Easy questions. Very easy questions. How many times did Norbert snore last night?
All right.
How many times did James shout out his YouTube channel during the IEM Rio run to the grand final
I thought that was kind of easy.
Trophy lift?
Question number 4. Big's lowest rated player at the major was Rigon, Tabson, or Sirison. Now this is including the opening stage as well as the major.
Rigon had some really bad maps. Like he had like 2 extremely bad maps. So I would probably punt it on him immediately. I don't think
if it's not him, then I don't know.
I can't see it being either of the other 2 really with what I remember.
So we're going with Rigon.
Let's go for Rigon.
Let's go with Rigon.
Lucky an A, Rigon. Correct answer is Rigon.
Yeah,
they were the 3.
He went like 315 or something like that, like something crazy.
I'm pretty sure they were the 3 lowest rated players.
Oh, really? Okay.
It was like Crimbo at the top, and then I think it was JDC. But none of them had good stats. So
okay.
Yeah. Okay. Question number 5. Starry rejoins Lin Vision. How much did they sell him for when he went to Tai Lu? Nothing, under 50k USD, over 50k USD.
Allegedly.
Wasn't it 90k?
Allegedly.
When he went to Tai Lu, so nothing. He went on a free transfer. He went back for like 100k. Somebody claims, but I don't know.
How much did they sell him for
when he went to Tai Lu?
Okay.
So that was a free transfer, and then Lin Vision bought him back for like 100k. Apparently, I can't confirm.
Yeah, that was a little bit tricky.
So
that
was a tricky question.
I was about to say over 50k because I misread the question.
Bro,
there we go.
All right. So you've got 5 correct. You had a little bit of help. We're about to the bonus question. This is for double. This is for 2 $50 skins for the people. 2 winners. Right. 2 winners on the final show of 2024. Can it get better than this? All right, question number 6, the bonus question. Here it comes. Which player had the best mustache on FlyQuest? ENCE, Alistair, or Dexter?
I mean, easy. It's got to be Alistair.
Prof, do you confer? Or
I think this is true. Yeah.
Locking in B, Alistair, and the correct answer is...
It was Majestic.
That's incorrect.
Okay.
That's incorrect. I've been stooged. The correct answer is Alistair. I'm sorry. I swear. I'm checking now what I sent Lucas.
No disrespect.
It's definitely not. I feel like I've been trolled by Lucas right now. Did I fuck it up, Lucas?
Probably bugged because of
I didn't fuck it up. It's he's trolled. Lucas is trolled. It's fine. You were correct. You were bang on. Okay. Okay, hold on. Let me press it again. I pressed it. See, now you're trolling. Now you're definitely trolling.
Trolling for the second time. Did Dexter even have a mustache at any point?
Yeah, he did. It's just not a very good one.
Like a schmall.
They're not easy to grow, mate. Some of them are hard. Some of them are, but it was Alistair. That's the correct answer. Lucas, don't need to worry about it. You can get it off the screen. It's fine. So that's who wants to be a Skinionaire. That's a bonus question. That's 2 winners, which Lucas will have to draw right now. And that's brought to you by Skin Place, which, guys, have sold over 400,000 skins. Have bought over 400,000 skins. So head over to Skin Place, check them out. All right, Lucas, are you drawing our winners? I think he is. Our first winner is that Kana? It's so far away and the text is so small. I can't fucking read it.
Tony Lab.
Oh, wow. Kana's been following for 3 years. Congratulations, Kana, with a 3 and 2 R's. And Tony Lab with an O. He's been following for 5 years. That's 2 very old schoolers. So thank you very much, Kana and Tony Lab, for supporting the show and following the channel. Congratulations. We'll get our people to talk to your people and we'll get you the skins. Thank you very much. Okay, cool. Should we get into the meat and potatoes now, gentlemen?
Let's go.
All right. So let's set the scene. The day was Sunday, the 29th of December, 2024, rumblings from below the earth for previous days. People were looking up to the sky. They thought it was drones, but no, it was down below where they should have been looking. The earthquake, the seismic shift, and then boom, everything unfolded. Day after day, hour after hour, speculation, overdrive tweets, KRL, reports with Nell, HLTV, it all happened. And we found ourselves now looking at a bunch of rosters that are potentially coming together, very few that are confirmed at this point, and we're going to dive into that tonight. Now, Striker, the man with the ear to the ground, a little bit like a snake, right? Not in a bad way, but like you can hear the train coming from further away than everybody else. Okay. So, Striker, is there a reason that yesterday was the day where all of this went gangbusters?
I mean, it was spread out as well in the day after that, and like in a couple of days before, but like it all just kind of seemed to fall together. I think Overdrive was the one who kind of kicked it off because he just like threw out like 10 different things within a few hours or whatever. So I think it all just kind of unfolded afterwards. I don't really particularly think there was any reason why that day was the day. I think that day was when some people started to talk, I suppose. Okay,
so it wasn't because like rosters needed to be confirmed by a certain point in time or anything along those lines?
I think for Falcons, that would be the whatever date that is going to be for the next ranking, because that's going to be the one that decides
Katowice. Yeah.
So that for them that's a big date. Actually, I'm not sure how it works with the other ones, because Bounty, I assume they had changed some rules around rosters. I would have to double check, because they brought up on your rule book, and I forgot. It was like during the major, I didn't actually read through it, so I would have to check when they actually do have to announce things, or not announce, but at least put it in for Blast, and DSL is usually 2 weeks beforehand, if I'm not mistaken.
What I know, I think Blast is just using the same invite and seeding date, which is like December 1st.
Yeah, I mean,
so everything's based on that.
Invite is fine, but it's more about when they actually have to confirm the rosters that are coming there and all that, because that's usually where the dates that people have to take care of, because otherwise it is about the core, right? But that doesn't really affect most teams apart from Falcons, and then potentially now Heroic, of course, who look to be affected.
Okay, well, we'll get to those in a moment. Let's start with one of the early rumors or points of speculation that was flying around there. Obviously, for the longest time, and we discussed this on the last show we did, obviously Spinks on the way out, and then you had that Apex Instagram story saying, I'm not really feeling like a team, just helping to confirm more of what I think we had all already known for some time. Spinks no longer being a part of Vitality, which was leaving an open slot. But it felt like there was going to be a little bit more of a dull period of time. But it feels like, there was still, because the whole Jimmy not going to Falcons, same as Modesty not going to Falcons, felt like that had really stalled out the proceedings as far as roster changes were concerned, but we knew that there were going to be some slots open. And then ropz being rumored to join Vitality in lieu of Spinks. That one right there, Prof, you hear that, and that one just makes sense. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of my tweet as well. I think we heard that the contract could be up a while back, and then end of year, looking at possibilities. From the big teams, the only player, if we talk about like Navi, G2, Spirit, Vitality, maybe Mouse even. Obviously the Nico to Falcons thing was something that was talked about for a long time, and then the only other thing is like Spinks and Vitality not really getting along, and that's probably going to be a change. So obviously G2, like replacing Nico, could have been an option, but this Spinks one also feels like it just makes a lot of sense, and it also goes kind of hand in hand with how Vitality have been operating with the Flame signing before, and some of these signings where they would just be getting people for free by being proactive on the market, talking to people, and maybe like offering a good contract but then like not having to pay a buyout for them, right? So yeah. I think role-wise also changes some dynamics, but maybe in a positive way. It's not like they're that different, but they're also not the same player. I would say
City's side was the big difference, right? But you would assume that Flames is probably going to undertake some more changes to Spinx's positions that are more active, right? And ropz is more of an anchor on most positions. So there's going to be some shifts between those two and probably Mezzi, unless he also gets replaced and we just don't know about it. But it feels like it will benefit everybody.
Well, just off the top of the dome, like, so positions, ropz plays ramp on nuke, for example.
Yeah, that's Flamesy.
Yeah, so then, but you could put Flamesy then as the main player, which is where Spinx was, right? Because Mezzi was anchoring towards A and Apex was yard, and then Zywoo was the rotator. So then Flamesy could play a position that's a bit more transitional.
Yeah, but you could also, like, ropz obviously plays also some rotation spots, famously, like, I don't know.
Yeah, but do you remove ropz from a position like ramp, for example? Like, wouldn't you just, like, he's one of the best in the world in that position?
No, you don't have to, but I'm just saying, like, both of them I feel like have, there's options to go either way. I don't think it's like a problematic shift for either of them. I think it's actually maybe a positive to get some, like, freshness, but not changing too much to go into the area where they're like, we're just signing a player and changing all of his roles. I think it's both players are pretty versatile and pretty good in both things.
Yeah,
that's a fair framing of it.
You also I want to consider, like, if Mezzi stays, he's also going to be the one who probably takes the most shit, not shit in terms of like really the worst roles, but more like he is more versatile. There, he's going to be able to change up a lot of the spots without too much of a hassle. So I don't think it's going to be an issue. And in terms of, allowing Flamesy more space on CT side, especially, moving him away from anchor, which is a position that we knew the whole time wasn't necessarily his best fit. He likes to be more active, of course. So it just feels like it is a win-win for Vitality, no matter how that works out.
I want to kind of, I don't want to throw you under the bus here, Striker. So say as much as you're only going to say as much as you want to say. So I don't even know why I'm prefacing this. You can just say no comment and we can move on. But how, from your understanding, from what you know from behind the scenes, how done is this deal with ropz?
As far as I know, it's pretty much done. I mean, like, I don't know if it was actually 100% signed and like everything is done, but it seems everything's agreed to the level that I can tell.
Okay.
So and then it is happening.
You've just floated the Mezzi situation a couple of times there. What gives you merit in bringing that up? Is it just speculation from your perspective of, hey, there are names available on the market and maybe they would look to try and upgrade this position? Or is this something that you've heard?
I mean, we knew for a while. We knew for a while that they were looking into potentially upgrading him, so I don't think that was going to be new. But also, there were some rumblings that they had some options to, or at least they were trying to see if they can upgrade to both of those positions. But I think, as far as I can tell now, that went away because like a primary targets didn't work out. That was basically the one. Like, they just thought that they could go really big, get another big player instead of Mezzi, and that would have just made them kind of a super team at that point. But that didn't work out, and so I think he's staying.
Jimmy kind of a player,
that type of a thing, like some big player.
Okay, interesting.
I think it was a couple of options there. I mean, Jimmy was the one that Carol actually brought up at some point, that he declined the Vitality offer or anything like that. And I think that would have been probably a two for with ropz at the same time. At least I imagine that was the idea at the beginning.
Wow, yeah, that would have that. It's interesting to see that Mao's looking relatively untouched by all of this. When coming into this, it felt like, hey, maybe Shuey could be getting the call up if we see Carrigan departing FaZe, for example, or where's Jimmy going. So interesting to see that Mao's are seeming pretty safe and going to be able to continue. Wasn't one of the teams I had on the topic list for this evening, but
yeah. Just like touching on Vitality now, let's just assume this ropz thing comes through. That's a pretty stacked lineup. Obviously, a bit of, I don't know how to even judge ropz. Like, are we if we hype him, are we like recency bias or longevity? Because like his last year was not that great, but then he ended up with a bang in Shanghai. So I don't know like where his actual level is realistically. Like, when you draw the line on the last year, obviously he was like top 20 player, which is really good. But his previous years, he was much better than that. And I don't know if he'll if he'll continue this where he ended off in Shanghai, which is like, I don't know, is this is like playing for a contract form, as I tweeted after his like semis and everything, or is this just where he is now that he adapted to CS2 a bit more? I don't know where he will be, and if because people are like, this is now a super mega team, but it's like Spinks was also a pretty good player last year and for a good part of this year as well. It's not like we're replacing, I don't know, some scrub with a top 5 rifler in the like top 5 player in the world. Like it is pretty much kind of like for like, but ropz has like so much more credibility because of the longevity. But does that mean he will be better next year? That is a question mark, right? And how he fit
that's a good question.
With obviously Spinks wasn't. It's not like Spinks doesn't know how to play. That's why he's leaving Vitality. It's from everything we know, it has been more of a vision of the game, personality type of thing that didn't work out. And how will that work with ropz? Like how will he fit into this Vitality vibe? Will it work? Will it not work? He's been in FaZe, and before that in Mouse for like his whole career. That's like pretty much 80% of his career just playing with Kerrigan, which is a very specific way. And now going to Apex is quite a different type of a person, if nothing else, right? But it's I'm not like sold that this will automatically make them the best team in the world. I think they're like plus 10% maybe as a team, but not like plus 40% or something.
I'm curious how the kind of ropz Apex, because obviously ropz has a lot of input into the game. Like we've heard it from Kerrigan, he's has more impact than we can see. We heard it from the team a lot. So I'm curious about how he's going to fit in from that perspective, because Apex obviously has his character, has his idea of how he wants to play the game, and previously when he got the Danes in, there was a lot of bumping heads about like which way are we going to go? Are we going to play more my style or Onyx style with the Astralis core, or not core, but the couple of players from Astralis, right? So that's the part that kind of is going to be interesting for me, as well as how much does it unlock flamezy on the CT side, because that's where he was obviously lacking compared to T side, where he was like in rifle terms the biggest star in Vitality, I would say. So that's the one where I feel like that's the part that's not the one for one, because ropz is coming into different positions on CT side to take up more of flamezy. Flamezy is going to come into more active position on CT side, ones that will probably enjoy more, and that's going to improve their CT sides as well. But in ropz's T sides have actually not been that great this past year. It's actually been the CT sides where he was shining in relatively worse positions. His lurking actually wasn't working out a lot in my eyes for the past year. So I'm curious about where because he's going to have to reinvent himself to some degree.
I think it's interesting, right? Because like Prof, you kind of framed that question of what's the expectation. For me, I think I go straight to the polar opposites, right? Like what is the worst case scenario here? And I think one of those would be based off of what you guys were touching on just there in terms of for ropz basically playing under Kerrigan for his entire time within Tier 1, right? Obviously that it wasn't the entire time, but it's basically, and I think Kerrigan's demeanor is going to be much different to Apex's demeanor. I think that goes without a doubt. So how he handles that could definitely have the impact of the potentially more negative side of things, right? Because you think this is something that's very common for people in all walks of life, no matter what you're doing. You seem to think the grass is always greener, right? So by departing FaZe, looking for essentially a fresh start, getting to play with ZywOo, that's amazing. That's really good. Like I think that, if I'm ropz, I'd be wanting to sign up for that. But what potential downsides come with it? A different style of leadership and someone who isn't Kerrigan, right? I'm definitely not having a knock at Apex. I think he's done a great job, but it is going to be different and something for ropz to have to be able to work through and consider. And then you have the other side of this is, okay, let's look at absolute best case scenario. Let's use that recency bias that you were touching on, Prof. Let's say that ropz is able to put himself in, positions where he's able to dominate. And then you have ZywOo, and then you have flamezy more active and looking hot to try. And then you just have reliable Mezzy and then Apex doing his crazy things every now and again. Okay, it seems very exciting. It feels like there's a lot of firepower. So I think what I would like to do, and I'd like to pose this to the viewers at home right now, people will probably watching live, this won't be to you. This will be people watching on YouTube at a later date. I want to try and activate people in the comments a bit more. So once we go through all of these, who do you guys, and I'll do it at the end once we get there as well, who do you guys at home think are the biggest winners and losers of this speculation transfer period? Because not all of these things are locked in and there still could be potential for stuff to change. Keep that in mind. But I'd love to hear from the people at home. Who do they think is the biggest winners in terms of like coming out on top of the trades, and who do they feel have been, fucked the most? And I will not accept heroic, right? Like obviously when we get heroic, that's not going to be fun. But
for sure,
yeah.
That's pretty good. That's pretty clear
I won't accept that. I won't accept that.
Or Shush, if you want to be more specific.
Yeah, Shush and Saul.
I mean,
I guess
could
it's Saul, really.
To be fair, Shush could also go somewhere pretty big. I mean, there's a world like if FaZe undergo more changes like that. That's a place where he could go. There's a few places where he could potentially slot in. So it's not over for him.
Unless we got anything else for Vitality, I want to kind of jump on to the hole that's been left over at FaZe. So we were just discussing ropz no longer being there. Now, I want to throw this one your way, Prof. When you think about FaZe throughout the last year, even if you want to go to the start of CS2, success in terms of making it to finals, not converting all of them. But what would you say, just from this is completely your opinion, what do you think the biggest weakness of the team has been where you've been watching them play?
A good question. I think when you look at their trio of like Frozen, Brokey, ropz, I think Frozen and ropz were never good at the same time, pretty much. Like I feel like they took turns, and then Brokey was Brokey, which is like pretty up and down. I think like getting even 2 out of 3 of these like playing well at the same time has been an issue. Obviously, that's not just purely a player thing, but I think because that's like it's always like a very simplistic way of just looking at this player is not putting this stats up, therefore it's not good. But I think in FaZe's case, that is a part of it. That just like the individuals were not good when they needed to be good. I think that was a big problem. I think if you look at Brokey, even I think last year versus this year, it's a significant drop off. And even though those peaks could still be as high, and he had like crazy rounds and everything, I don't think he was as consistent as they needed him, and they needed to make some of these plays like even late round or early round, sometimes a bit more, to open up space for the rest of the team to play, especially because Frozen and ropz are both late game, mid to late game players. I think that was where they had issues, combined with like Kerrigan and Rain together, like as the entry kind of pack, don't have that much potency compared to some other similar like combinations in the world. Just look at like Malbs and Nico, or fucking I don't know, Donk, and literally anyone. Like the potential that these guys have is completely not anything near what FaZe has. And then when we saw them do the best at the major is like ropz taking almost that, maybe not the first entry, but he would sometimes make plays in like 4v4s and just like open up bomb sites, which almost he never does. And it's probably shouldn't have even happened, but he exploited like the other team not being to the level, I feel like sometimes. So I think that's where like some aggression was missing, like quality aggression, and then consistency from the rest, which are probably two connected things in my opinion.
Yeah, because the aggression one is one that I felt as well. I think that ropz and Frozen had similar profiles of play, right? They're both were players that I think did their better work activating late within rounds, right? So to either close or to find that necessary kill to kind of secure the situation. And then I think it's always going to be a position where it is quite flux in terms of going for aggressive maneuvers and taking space. You'd watch some FaZe games where Kerrigan was able to get space, but how many of those games out of 10, would you imagine that he's actually able to get away with that and not just be traded?
Probably. Yeah.
Right? Maybe 2, right? And that's not to have a knock, but that's because, the type of plays that he's going for a high risk, high reward. And then Rain, on the other hand, like he's not delivering that on, every game, right? He'll show up for the big ones because, I find Rain, I've been doing it for a decade now. I it takes a lot to get your dick hard, right? It's not going to be something that just happens with a stiff breeze anymore. You're getting older. You need to make sure that the games actually mean something to you. So the whole point of this, obviously, is the gap that ropz is left is who is going to fill that. And the rumor is EliGE to do that, who is a player who likes to go in first, likes to entry, likes to do all that. And we saw him on Complexity in multiple occasions throughout the year, putting all players on his back and being able to do that and find a lot of impact while getting extremely frustrated while doing so. So, with some of the conversation points that we've just brought up there, Striker, and you can add anything to that if you'd like, but do you think that EliGE solves these issues for FaZe? Does he create new issues? Is this a good replacement?
I mean, one for one, it's obviously a kind of diametrically different player. It's almost like the complete opposite to ropz, right? So it's not a one-to-one, and I'm curious how FaZe will solve that, because you have multiple ways of going about it, and it's kind of either you want to make EliGE your kind of NertZ type of a player who will start out, he was aggressive, but he will start out more out of lurk positions, right? Like on T side especially. Or are you going to put him in range positions, which is kind of his preferred roles, right? Kind of second guy in a lot, being aggressive, even going for a lot of openings, right? And put Rain somewhere on the lurk side, or just more passive, because in the I could see them going both ways, but I would probably bet on the second, unless there's more changes and Rain's also out, and they bring in somebody completely different to fill those roles, right? But assuming this is just one, then I would probably bet that Rain's going to take the most changes, because in the past he was quite versatile. Maybe not so much in recent years, but he was playing a lot of different positions in the older version of FaZe, and it was working out pretty well for him. I mean, he was consistently quite performing pretty well. So I think he could do both. I'm just curious about how much of a dip we would see from him then, because we're already seeing him being on the way down, obviously, for the last year or so.
This is T side that we're talking about,
mainly
right?
T side, yeah. Because CT side, I would say, I mean, he's again, EliGE is much more rotator, right? He's much more in active positions, and that's also going to cause a lot of kind of friction in FaZe with their current setup. There are going to be changes in that for sure. So CT side or T side, there are going to have to be a lot of changes.
I think that there's something here which let's go back to 2016, because there was a dialogue back. Let's go back. There was a dialogue then, right, when SK Luminosity, best team in the world. So 2016, 2017. You had role discussion back then, which was a lot more cut and dry in terms of the approach of the game. But I remember like the SK guys, like Taco, everyone, like, you have to be able to do everything, right? Like you're not just defined by the one thing that you're doing more often than not, right? And I feel that when we get in these conversations, especially with a lot of the work that's been done, which I don't think are bad things, I think like Harry, with the different databases that he has, of the positions that the players play, with the different scatter graphs. Is that what it's called? I'm an idiot when it comes with the graphs that he has that show the different player profiles. They definitely highlight a lot of things that these players, have as it's not tendencies. It is the profile of a player, how they address situations, where are they aggressive, et cetera, et cetera. So all of these things help us point and be able to identify the way a player is. But do we feel that that is necessarily how a player has to be? Now, this is a bit more broad. It's not just the FaZe conversation, because again, we did it with the Vitality conversation just then. We're going to do it again with the FaZe conversation now, and we'll probably continue as we go through all the teams, because there needs to be a change in FaZe. I think that's fair. Obviously, if ropz is leaving. But I think the way that they were approaching the game, the biggest boon that they had going for them was, well, this is a team that does their best work on the big stages. No one was saying these guys run the best strategies, or these guys have the best default, or these guys, no one was saying anything along those lines. Yeah. And I was actually trying to ponder this. Do we think that Donk could be ushering in a bit of a shift in meta? Obviously, you can't have donks on every team, but potentially more aggressive pieces and elements, like of the rifling variety, right? If you have a Rain who's going off, and you also have an EliGE who's going off, now there's only so much space that you can take on a map, but like if we're talking about Mirage, let's say that you have EliGE going mid with the map control with Karrigan, but then Rain could now be liberated to I know it's a bit more lurky, but to be the aggressive lurk on A, walking out A ramp, the position that he anchors on the CT side, right? Like Rain could do that easily. It's just aimbot for Rain. Like he just bop head. Like I look at these things and I think this is the flavor I feel that FaZe were missing, because Beatty Boy, ropz, and Frozen, both of them on the same team with a Brokey who, literally does his best work when there's 2 smokes, a Molotov, a flash, smoke spam, and comms chaos. That's when Brokey does his worst work, when shit's hit the fan. He's not the guy I'm sending in first to find a pick. Now I've got 2 riflers I can do so, and Karrigan is the tradable piece. I think it seems pretty exciting. I think it's a good chain.
I mean, just to touch on what your premise there about like roles and stats and stuff like that, I think it's important to understand what we are judging and what we're looking at. Like when we were talking about like EliGE to FaZe, and we were saying like, oh, EliGE had a great year. He's like one of the best riflers, obviously like limited by team and stuff like that. What we're saying about his last year is, and then now we're putting him into FaZe. If we're expecting the same results as in complexity, we need to put them in the same positions as in complexity, because if we're changing the positions, then we can't expect the same results, right? We're tweaking a part of the formula that will then result in something different happening. Like maybe he is even better, but we can't really, logically conclude that this is going to happen. That's kind of there is a percentage every time you change. Like the more spots you change, the more like the team composure, how the team is playing. These are all things that are going to affect the player. Therefore, we have like less certainty to presume how well he's going to perform in a new environment. And that now this can also be offset. I think the roles are more important for newer players that have less experience, because like someone like EliGE, someone like Rain in G2 in 2015 was like a clutcher late round player. Now that he has been an entry aggressive rifler for like, I don't know, 8 years probably, but he had like 4 years before that where he was a different player. He has like a lot, and that was a different era and everything, but he has a lot of experience playing all kinds of different roles. And you expect a player with, I don't know, almost 15 years of professional experience to be able to probably adapt more than, when you get someone like ropz in, he's not going to perform, and you change all of his roles, he's not going to put the same stats up, and people are going to be like, he's not doing the same thing. Obviously, he's not doing the same thing. He's not in the same position to do the same thing. Like, it doesn't even make any sense that he would. But I think that's why the roles are important. Not like, the team is going to perform worse because this guy is not playing. Maybe the team will still perform better, but his individual numbers will go down. But that might be in line with the roles that he has. So I think that's kind of the whole idea for me, how I think about role stats and like and predicting future outcomes, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, I see the take that a pro player should be able to adapt to anything and like change roles at an ask, but obviously you don't want a guy who's been a mega passive to just suddenly become your entry fragger, like you can't have people going diametrically to the other end unless they really want to make that change and they just wanted to reinvent themselves, whatever like that. If it's forced, it's going to be a problem. But the bottom line is you really do want to put your best player in the best positions. And at this point, EliGE probably would be the best rifler, at least in FaZe. And you want him to have the preferred roles, or at least as many of them as possible, so that he can fulfill on that potential, right? And Rain, who is obviously on a way down, should be the one who's taking a step back and should be the one who's adapting a bit more, so it's not like there can be some back and forth. I mean, there could be some maps where maybe it is going to fit EliGE more to change up something, just because there's a different system, that they will utilize them differently, more aggressively in certain positions, but there will have to be a lot of taking back and forth.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it, because when FaZe was the most successful, it's when Twist was on the roster, right? Well, that could be arguable over time, but when they won the major. So I guess that technically...
I don't think that's arguable. They won the Grand Slam. Okay. They're the best team of the year. They never were on that level. Yeah.
I just said it, and I thought I didn't fact check that in my brain, so I should probably just stop myself. But
that's not pundits from you to fact check it yourself.
I try not to be too outrageous, but I think that Twist was a glue guy. Like, he was a facilitator. He could do everything, right? Like he would be there to set up his teammates, but he would also be extremely impactful when it eventually fell to him. And I try to just think about the addition. So I would be shunting Frozen over into positions on Nuke, for example. I'd be making him play ramp, and then I'd bring EliGE over to the top side to help out Carrigan, right? So I'm just thinking of these little changes on the CT side that could make. I wouldn't put EliGE at ramp. I couldn't even possibly think of why I would do that.
Yeah, I mean, Rain outside is kind of iconic, but that could also be.
I mean, EliGE also plays outside though. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Rain to ramp could be the.
I was looking at the positions, by the way. Now I'll just could do a quick rundown just so people understand just how much of an overlap it is at the moment with what they've been. So T side, right? Just two, both lower B. Inferno both boiler, Mirage both mid brawl, Nuke both outside, Vertigo, that's T positions, Vertigo A ramp both. I mean they
yeah, but
FaZe
fucking
play a lot
put
of
Frozen
Vertigo,
in put Frozen in pit, right? Like make him be ropz, because that's what when I looked at that team, that's what I thought. Like
now as well,
and then put Rain back over to B with Carrigan like it used to be. Those guys used to have a good banana hold, and then fucking EliGE can play short, and then Brokey can rotate with the orb. I think that there's lots of things that you know they can do there.
Yeah.
Where's the CT side?
I was looking at CT side. Give me one sec. CT side was like 3 same positions as well.
T side was everything was the same.
CT outside. EliGE plays as well, right? I'm not crazy. I said that before, and I just had to double check myself. Yeah. CT does 2, both on CT. Inferno, both the A short guy, A rifle, CT Nuke outside. So both outside guys, and then the rest they're different. I mean, EliGE actually plays Anubis mid, which is more of an anchor position if you think about it. It's not super active. So there are things that like an Ancient, he's on mid as well. When
that'll have to
be
change.
anchor.
Yeah, well, Carrigan was playing mid for FaZe. So
right, yeah,
there have to be some changes going on there. I think that this would be good because it will change the profile for FaZe and it will just freshen things up. I also think it's going to be good for EliGE because he doesn't need to slam the desk every time his team loses a fucking unlosable 5v3 situation because they just
like
brain fades
I'm tired
every time.
of my team losing 2v 3vx. Which team is good at these? And he's like, FaZe, okay, I wanna go to this team. Please just save me. I can't see this anymore. Please, guys.
But it's interesting how the discourse has shifted. I think that it's probably been the last year, the complexity period of time where these frustrations have come through. But EliGE for the longest time, as far as I was concerned, like it was the idea that, you know, because his partner, he's got a dog, like was about spending time in the States and being at home. And now I don't know if he's happy, but he's willing to make the shift to be competitive and try and fight for trophies, right? So I think that this is like the next phase of EliGE, even though we've had him on our screens for a long time. Right now, with the type of Counter-Strike he's playing, you know, you could be arguing that this is some prime EliGE. So I think this is great for him, and hopefully it's a much less stressful experience, and he can find some better success. And I think that, yeah, just to tie back in when I was talking about like maybe T sides and all of this, I think if you have Rain and EliGE trying to take space, find the openings, Frozen on the lurk, and then you have Carrigan and Brokey as your facilitators, right? I think that's where Carrigan is really going to have to fill that role, to be that facilitator as opposed to just a lamb in to be traded, right? So, yeah, I'm interested to see what comes of this.
There you go. Messi also says EliGE practicing 365 days in EU is going to be insane.
I'm curious as to how they help it out though to get him over, because I'm pretty sure for Twist, I don't want to talk like all about his personal life and stuff, but I don't know how much FaZe facilitated him to be in Europe, because like he was in Malta, right?
He was in Cologne at first and then had to go to Malta because it was like his permit was running out or something like that, right? I mean, I remember that.
Yeah, I don't think that matters now that he's married anymore. But yeah, you're right.
I don't know how that works exactly.
So.
But there was a lot of problems for Twist, yeah, when he was like long term in Europe.
Yeah, so I don't know what EliGE's choices and options are going to be, because I like FaZe are an American-based organization. I know that they have staff everywhere. Yeah, EliGE, if you're going to move to Malta, I'll tell you where not to be. Let me know. All right.
Don't go to the club where config went.
No, you don't go anywhere near Patcherville. Like, yeah. Anyway, okay. Jumping in. Is everyone happy with the FaZe conversation?
Yeah. Are we going to do ad break?
Yeah, let's do it. Lucas here. Let's run an ad break. We'll be right back.
changing, but one thing remains the same. Victories with 1xBet.
SkinPlace launching an event with a total prize pool of $10,000 in honor of our first anniversary. Just sell skins, claim daily bonuses, complete missions, visit the shop, and participate in the main giveaway with popular skins and a powerful PC. Follow our social media to not miss.
Since the dawn of CSGO, we have been there. Observers of all that competition can reveal. Elation, fear, triumph, and heartache reach out from every frame. From the small studios and conference rooms to the epic arenas, the feeling is still the same. We live and breathe this game. This was CSGO Through the Lens. Buy now at HLTV.org/shop.
All right, we're back from the break. Thanks for sticking with us. Striker has just said he has one last little tidbit he would like to bring up for FaZe. Striker, what do you got?
I was just going to say that nobody rebuilds teams like Kerrigan. And if there's somebody who can make it work from the start and just magically find a solution, it's going to be him. So I'm very positive about FaZe.
Yeah, okay, nice. All right, we're going to just jump into our next topic. So from North American to North America, the liquidation of Latvian assets. Yekinda, people have been calling for his head for some time, and it's finally happened. He's been put on the bench. He is no longer on the starting roster over there, which has left a bit of a void. In terms of what that means for Yekinda, we can either discuss that now or we can discuss that a little bit later down the track. I'm impartial, but the rumor is that NertZ is the pickup to be heading on over and joining Liquid in lieu of Yekinda. So you hear that news, and we'll start with you this time, Striker. Now, you hear that news, like Liquid as a roster, Yekinda has had his struggles. He did the whole in-game leadership stuff. It's been a pretty quick 2 years, all things to be considered. They made top 8 of the major, just gone now. Does NertZ solve the problems that you see? Does it make the team more, less exciting? What are your thoughts?
I mean, again, it's not exactly 1-to-1, right? And like I know originally when Liquid were first looking at NertZ, that was like half a year ago when that was eventually JKS joined, right? Because they couldn't make it work. He was too expensive, So now I don't know if things changed because of the Falcons, move for the trio, and so Heroic are just like, okay, we're just gonna get the money that we can and rebuild with that, or whatever they're gonna do. But something changed in that half of a year and seemed like they finally pulled it off. It does create a lot of questions for me because on the face of it, it looks fairly baity and it looks fairly a lot like there will also have to be some changes. But then, Twist also had to take a step back, so maybe he's just going to take a step back forward. NertZ could work from kind of either similar positions, or he will just transition more into the front rows as well. It's just hard for me to imagine how exactly they will shift things around for it to make it work. But obviously, I mean, NertZ should be on a really good team. He's deserved his place in one of the top teams, I think. For a while, he's been overlooked a couple of times now. Obviously, he had the whole ENCE core leave him for Falcons. Now, basically the same thing has happened with Heroic to Falcons, and so him getting an opportunity in one of the top orgs, I think is great. I'm just curious about whether it's going to be a good fit in roles and in that group.
I want to ask Chad, when you see this lineup. So the lineup now, as rumored, is NAF, Twists, JKS, Ultimate, and NertZ. Who is going to be every team needs to have a player that's going to go in less than optimal situations on the T side and probably die. Who is this going to be?
Well, they've already been shifting. I know the stats guys out there, love their aggregates. But if people were watching the games that they were playing at the major, it's already shifted. So it's going to be JKS and Twists.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's already shifted. If people are actually watching the games, They can see that it's already shifted with the players and the positions. It's already. I
mean, YEKI NertZ was taking a step back for sure already at that point.
But I also think this is a part of like the way that the game develops too, because like one area of a map is going to have for a certain period of time such a focus for like the general meta, and then when it shifts and it's like, oh well, actually, if we do send our sharpest guy or our best fragger out into a position to take a fight against their suboptimal guy, or in just a 1v1 duel that's a 50-50 that we can win, you're going to shift players around, right? Like, I think one of those areas was probably in more recent history, Ancient, the B-bomb site.
Oh, B, okay.
Well, B was one that shifted a little bit because, you know, we like for the longest time you'd have Rain in cave as your cave guy, but then they shifted him to be the B long defender because it's a bit more of an aim position, right? Whereas cave is a bit trickier with the wall bangs, and you send an in-game leader in there, he's good with an MP9. So I think that, you know, you do get these developments over time where these kind of things can change. And I think, you know, you look at some of the space that JKS has already been put in positions of taking for Liquid before this edition of NertZ. And like they could put NertZ in those JKS style positions right now. And I think think about this, like taking Yard on Nuke on the T side, you were traditionally assisted by a smoke wall. At a minimum, at one smoke wall, maybe two smoke walls. So you taking that space, are you taking that space to then get the room and wait? Are you getting that space to go for a fight? Because then, like mid to late round, are you now a lurking piece? Like, how do you look at that, right? Like Nuke's obviously a different example. It's not a traditional map in terms of the layout or the play. If we compared it to say like a Mirage, or if we compared it to something along the lines of an Ancient and Anubis, along those lines where you do need people to go in a little bit more headstrong. But I think that when we're talking about these situations, we'd want to try and identify areas of the map where a player just kind of needs to go in. And I think that if it's like a mid-round scenario and you get to the point, it's like, okay, well, we're in like a 3v3 or a 4v4 or something, and someone needs to go, then okay, someone is going to go. And it could be anybody. That could be NAF, that could be Twist, that could be JKS, that could be NertZ, right? It just depends on who's in what position to be doing what. But if we're talking about getting mid control early within the round in terms of like Barrage, okay, so we're doing top cat smoke, we're doing window smoke, we're going to path in front of the box because we know they're molly behind it, and we're going to try and do like a Carrigan type maneuver where we run down mid and we get behind their con smoke. Okay, that's a fucking risky maneuver, right? The smoke could get cleared, they could be pushing mid, so many things could happen. Who's going to do that? I feel that's going to be a JKS or a Twist type role, right?
I mean, you see on Ancient, for example, like that's kind of a special case for Heroic because NertZ was doing a lot of mids, like the early mid aggression was NertZ, actually. So he does have some of these positions, you know, that are very high risk and aren't maybe not necessarily from a lurker's position, like traditionally, let's say.
Because I think like the martyrdom, right? The people like refer to, okay, they want someone to be like a Kixen, right? They want someone to be like a Carrigan. But at certain points, I think there's a line. I think like your Kixens and your Shuis are probably like you'd keep them kind of away from a Carrigan. Carrigan, in sometimes when things get really desperate, him and Snappy, they start to fall into similar categories, which is what it used to be like with Crystal. Remember Crystal way back? Yeah. And at one point he lost complete
their lives super low. Yeah,
but you can't really do that. Like if you're in a position where you're taking space and you're going out and you're the first guy, I don't think it matters who you are, right? Like if you're the first, like you need selfless players. But like let's say that the scenario is it's JKS and NertZ. Well, I'm saying, okay, Justin, you go out first, NertZ will trade you, right? And that's probably the way that'll go. Unless like NertZ is on 2 HP, then it's probably, hey, NertZ, you go first, and then JKS will trade you. So I think that like when people want to put it in a box, and that's what I'm trying to keep this for all of these because I know what the comments are going to say. Oh, you fucking dick riding Liquid again. But I had this with FaZe and I had this with Vitality. I think that we're getting too much in this like linear style of thinking with these players that they can't do more than what we've seen them do. I think your point was probably the best, Prof, in the sense of, yeah, but we're basing the capacity of what we can expect from these players off of what we've seen most recently, right? And I think that right there is probably the most important part. Now, is the question, can they do more? Well, I'd assume a lot of these experienced players definitely can, but where are you going to get the absolute most out of them? And what can we expect? The thing is, even with the addition of NertZ, Liquid weren't playing convincing Counter-Strike at all. Like they were the weakest team, in my opinion, in the top 8 of the major.
Yeah, for sure.
Without a doubt.
Like no one was talking about Liquid after that being like, yeah, Liquid next season they're gonna do big things. Like no one really said that. They were like, okay, they did this, good for them, and that was kind of it. It didn't really blow anyone out of the water.
It was just hard to judge the run because of the teams that they faced along the way as well, because they kind of managed to dodge all the big ones all the way to the end, apart from Spirit. At the end, they were competitive against Spirit, but then like it was always from a behind, right? They had to come back into those couple of games. So it just felt like we never really got to see them tested until they lost. So that was just a difficult thing to judge.
Yeah, and I think if we look at their season, it started pretty strong with hype, right? They played Na'Vi at the Blast groups and they beat them there. And Ultimate was showing that he can be like this influential, aggressive AWPer, but that quickly simmered. So then what type of AWPer is he going to become on a regular basis? And then how are the team going to be able to use him as part of that? And then we saw that devastating comeback loss. Well, I guess it was comeback from FaZe, but
I mean that time.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that was the comeback loss. Sorry, that was the major. But the FaZe loss that they had on Mirage, right? That they should never have lost, right? Right. That had left some marks early, and I don't think that the team has even close to showing what their actual potential is or what they're completely capable of just yet. Like I think we know that a lot of the names within Liquid are class players, but having NertZ join, like. Is he an upgrade over Yekinda in current form? Yes, I think NertZ is a great player.
Huge.
But how does that work within this team that I don't think it completely worked out who they are and how they want to approach the game? I don't know, because I don't even know if Liquid knows. So this is another adjustment. If people watch the vlog that Liquid put out regarding their run at the major, there's a couple of moments in there where they're discussing the sheer amount of like role and position changes that they had in, and we're only talking about a 6-month period of time. Well, there's going to be even more of that now. So, where does that put this team? I don't know. And is this the solution? Well, Liquid have been searching for the solution for the better part of 4 years now.
Not really finding any consistency or like, I mean, how many players like 2-player changes, 3-player changes that have they made? Like there's no
Patsy, Rainwaker.
Yeah, there's no idea of a formula that they have. So I think what you're saying about like roles in general, yes, players are versatile, but also not all players are versatile. I think there are players that are really good in certain roles, and there are players that are just good. And not everyone, I think NertZ is a player that's just like very good, but is like Madden a very good player or a very good player for a certain role. I feel like he's more in that, like you need to put him in a certain position to have him thrive to the max, to extract maximum value out of him, and then you need to recognize which players are which. Like I do think JKS, like in his little FaZe stint, has proven like he replaced Rain. He played like super aggressive, right? That was for one tournament. Can he do that consistently? Or because this is a guy that has been on the passive side for like so long. So changing these habits, little mid-round things, probably takes time, if nothing else. Like it's not just going to happen overnight. Like, you need to do this. And then it's going to be like, sure. And then do it in every situation, because like instincts, I think, are things that take some time to kind of shift. But I think they have a lot of quality on the lineup now. That's for sure. I don't think they have a weak player. I mean, maybe you can say Ultimate as an AWPer. Obviously, Shanghai was pretty good, but then before that, he had 3-4 tournaments that were pretty shit, to be honest. If he can have like that pretty good consistency that he showed in the first few tournaments and then end of the year, then I don't think they have a weak player or a reason to. Obviously, the only reason to struggle would be the IGL kind of vision of how the team needs to play, and I think that's where still Twists has a lot to prove. Yeah, as a player.
I mean, I wonder if that's what I was saying earlier. How much, and you were alluding to it as well, that they've already gone towards there. Was how much Twists was going to take the front now, and also in terms of being set up more, right? Because that's also something that he's on and off been used to. I mean, he's never been shying away from going in front and taking a lot of heads up duels. His aim is insane. I mean, he's historically one of the best aimers we have in the scene, right? So he has some capability in that role. It's more about how can you still combine that with being an IGL, because if you're being set up, if you're constantly in the front, you have to focus on everything. Is it going to be then hard for you to make the mid-round calls, or are you just going to offload that on the players like
NertZ,
Nap, or now NertZ who are on the other side of the map and have a bit more oversight on what's happening and what kind of gaps are being created where, all that stuff. Like how much responsibility is he going to offload on the teammates now that he has, I would say, probably a more of a playmaker in terms of NertZ, who can make his own calls and turn rounds on his own. So I think there are a lot of good things. I don't think this is the case of that it's going to be impossible to make it work, but there's definitely going to be some shifting of playstyle and responsibilities in the team overall.
I think that the biggest thing, and this is going to continue to chase Liquid around regardless of this change that they make, is most people want them to get a traditional in-game leader, right? Most people want to see them, like get a Kixen or a Hooksy or a Shui or somebody along those lines, right? And Twist has obviously committed himself to this. Now, the thing was, I was fooled once by Device. But I know Twist on a bit more of a personal level than I know Device, and I've gone out with meals with Twist and his wife and stuff, and we've sat and had long chats about things. So from what I can tell, he's very interested in pursuing exactly this. So how long that continues, I don't know, but from the conversations that I've had with him, he seems pretty damn keen. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with all of it.
I think just to kind of wrap a bow on it, are we optimistic about this? I think it's a good change.
This is the least exciting one for I like NertZ. I've always really liked it, but this is the least exciting change for me overall. I don't know why. I guess it's because I haven't loved the results Liquid have had anyway. Even though people think that people that I am probably that I like, I'm going to be a harsher critic of.
Yeah, that's how.
Sounds crazy, right?
But yeah. I do this as well.
That's how it works.
That's 100%.
What about you, Striker? You optimistic?
No, as I said, I think there's a lot of good things. I think there's more quality, and I felt like this is probably also a good thing for YEKI. Hopefully, him actually getting somewhat of a chance somewhere, in a team that's going to be competitive this year, because otherwise that would kind of suck for him, of course. But it does. I think Twist said it even somewhere in a reply to him in the announcement or something. I'm not sure if it was Twist or another one of the teammates that said that he probably needed a change of scenery, and I think that's 100% the case. I think he's gotten kind of pigeonholed into situations where he can't really regain his confidence, and he just needs to change the team, to do that again, to change a complete system, all that stuff, to just restart and try to rediscover that old form, because I feel like it was clear that it was never going to happen in Liquid. So him getting kicked is probably good for him as well, even though, near future it might put him out of playtime for a while, unless there's something we don't know about. I mean, he's got a lot of options in terms of Russian teams, because he's a Russian speaker and all that stuff. So maybe there's more out there for him than an IC at the moment. But we're gonna have to see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's jump into what are the odds, because that's going to set up the next conversation point where we're going to be discussing the Falcons. So for those people who missed the news, there have been a couple of pieces that have come out about the Falcons in the last couple of weeks. So one of them being, we all know that Nico's been going there. That's been known for the majority of the year, right? That's not news to anybody. But from that point, it then transitioned into, okay, so they're going to try and get m0NESY, and then if m0NESY goes, then Jimmy's going to go, and then apparently m0NESY not going anywhere. G2 aren't getting rid of him, at least not for now, until m0NESY's contract is up, and then who knows what's possible. We won't speculate that far down the track. And then Jimmy called it off too. So that left them in a very weird position where I believe it was it Ujerks and Jambo?
I remember at some point, and I know that they were at least trying for that.
Yeah, so that happened, and I think that too. It was actually interesting to see the response from the community when that was rumored, because when they just took the ENCE core, people were like, "Oh, they just got these old, washed up." Like, well, it wasn't really that, but I guess when Dupree was added and stuff, it's like, oh, they're just using old players, and then they went to get younger players who put on a good performance at the major, and then the response was, "Well, who the fuck are these guys?" So it's like, well, what are you meant to do? But then the most recent rumors is about them buying out the trio from Heroic, kicks in the in-game lead.
Again.
Yeah,
I
so
understand it, man.
poor Saw.
That's yeah. I mean, of course, poor him, because it's like the second time for him. But he was also like, pushing for going somewhere else. Like, he was getting out of ENCE before that happened potentially, and he was even trying to get some of the players out of ENCE to join him in a Heroic. So I don't think you can say poor Saw. I think it's partly self-inflicted at that point, but it's more about just how did this happen again? Like, how did they put themselves in this position again where they have to, like, the best option is just to buy out another core?
Yeah, so this Heroic core, Degs to the orb, kicks an in-game lead, and then Tessus is the third piece of this puzzle, Shush being the man who gets left out. Rumored to be 10 million, Prof. Does that sound about right to you?
No. Bullshit.
No.
Okay, so it's not 10 million. I've been telling my family it's 10 million.
I mean, even they said like Heroic over the year would get 10 million. That includes like the Stralis, Stan and Yabi, Cadian, yeah,
to Liquid. I mean, at that point,
yeah. Right? Then NertZ to Liquid, and now these three. So that would be like 4, 7, 8 players. And what is the rumor for the Stan and Yabi was 3 million or something?
2 million, one each. I think it was more or less the number
on just that, right? So I still think it's a lot. But if you think about like selling a core at this moment, even if the players are not that good, it's the value of that,
crazy value. Yeah,
the value of that is crazy, because like without that, your chances to get to the major are pretty slim. They're not impossible, but it's pretty hard.
It's not even about the major. You literally don't get to play anything until you qualify for it. So it's that's the biggest part.
So you get value not just from like potentially getting to the major, but also just like any like revenue shares. All of these things are connected to these players. So they're not really on their own that valuable, but they definitely have value as a trio that bring the Valve ranking points.
I think that's the main talking point here, because when it was Nico going over and there was other players discussed, even let's say they got Monacy and they had Magisk and then they got Jimmy and then they got one other strong player, it doesn't matter who it is, they would still have had to have qualified for things, and they would still have had to have gone through the wild card, which they were already invited for the Blast Bounty, right? And they would have had to have started accruing points the hardest way possible. Which I was thinking, if it was going to be the super team with Jimmy and Monacy and everything like that, they're going to qualify for events, right? This is a very, very strong team. They're going to do very well. And then when it was like Jambo and Ujerks, I was like, oh, fucking hell, this is going to be hard work. Nico, is this really what you signed yourself up for, mate? You've really screwed the pooch here. The bag better be hefty as all hell, right? Like that's where the money actually is worth it, right? Not the idea that, hey, I'm part of an org that can build a big team around me. It's like, fuck, okay, like the money makes the fact that this is going to suck actually okay, because you've gone from G2, a team, who's in the conversation for all the trophies, to just a bunch of nobodies. And then now you find yourself in this scenario where you get the core, which means you get the spots in the tournaments. You essentially take Heroic's positions in all of the invites, and then you're able to play. But the roster's mid.
I mean, if you look at it this way, right? I mean, it's Heroic minus NertZ plus Nico minus Shush plus Magisk. Isn't that actually pretty? Like, if you think about it, obviously it's not the super team that we were hoping for, but like if you compare it this way, it's not that bad, is it? If you get Nico for NertZ,
yeah, but I just thought like I thought what 1 year you get made to look foolish. I'm like,
I mean,
okay.
Of course.
Like, look, you got made to look stupid this year. Okay. I was like, all right, 2025, they're going to pull out all the stops. They're going to fucking empty the bank account. They're going to get every player they want.
Isn't this just like a story of PR? It's like who is pushing all of these stories, narratives? Oh, this guy, Apex is going to Falcons. All of these things is like, that wasn't on HLTV. I'm just gonna say, like, there's a lot of these little rumors, reports that are coming out that are based on not really much. All of the mouse players are leaving. m0NESY is going. Is like, the other sides also have a say in this, so it's not that simple. That's one thing. I was kind of annoyed from the start. Like, we had all of this happened last year. Like, Twist is going to Falcons. This is good, and no one went. And then this year, based on no factual realities, except like the actual facts and reality is they did not succeed last year. Everyone was like, it's gonna work this year. Based on what? Based on what is this gonna work? Okay.
I mean, they got NiKo. That's the one that made everything fall apart last year.
Yeah, but also things change, right? NiKo is not what NiKo was even a year ago. Even though he had a great year, he's not like a bad player in any way. So I just thought it funny. I saw some comments like, "Oh, this is a much better signing than last year." Realistically, these three players are pretty much the same. It's pretty much the same. Like Sunpius, I would say Sunpius versus Dexter. Sunpius is significantly better. Just as an upper
major though. Well, he had a good couple of maps.
Then you put like Tessus and Madden. I feel like it's pretty similar. Maybe Tessus, I would say maybe a bit better, but pretty similar. Role players and everything. And then you have the IGL where you have Snappy versus Kixan, and I would say again pretty similar. Where Snappy has like a lot more experience, more proven, like had some results with ENCE the year before, versus Kixan who doesn't really have any results, but is on the upward trajectory. So they're like in different points in the career, but I think value-wise, pretty similar. So they literally signed pretty much the same players, but the big difference is that they do have NiKo now. And last year they had Boros and Dupree. So just player-wise, not bad.
It cannot be worse than last year. Like, it has to be better than last year based on that alone.
Not bad. And you have the invites and everything. So again, not bad. But it also still seems super temporary. It doesn't seem like most of these players would survive long. And yeah,
I'll give you one big piece of support to that, which is even crazy to me, and the fact that you would put yourself in this position. So there were a lot of rumblings like leading up to this rumor of Trio to Falcons that Dexter was going to be out of Heroic no matter what. So if the whole team wants Dexter out and then he stays but goes to Falcons in the core, like what's his future?
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, what's his future prospect? Like he knows, especially with the outlook that m0NESY probably wanted to join NiKo and Falcons, just wasn't allowed again. Same as last year. They tried for that, didn't work twice in a row now. So whenever he does become available somewhere during 25, Falcons are going to get him. Like there's at least a very high likelihood that they will get him, unless G2 just start winning everything and he just doesn't see a point in coming to join NiKo, right? Like, unless G2 builds such a good team that m0NESY will resign and he will like put faith into the same organization again, he will go further. He will join Falcons. And as an Oper, what Oper would want to be in that position where he knows he's going to get replaced, especially when it's m0NESY. Like, no Oper can match that. Like, you're not going to be as good as m0NESY no matter what you do. You can be good, you can be decent, but you're never going to be as good as m0NESY unless I don't know who comes up in the from academies again. It's crazy to me that as a player you would put yourself in this position, but I get it at the same time, because if you're Dexter, like, you probably have no other options. Yeah. Realistically, like, it's another team that probably wanted you out. You're going to want to join whatever team is going to give you an opportunity, and you're actually going to go join a team that looks good on paper. I mean, it's even an improvement over the Heroic that we saw until now, right? So I understand it, but I hate it to my core, because it's going to be another year of Zonic saying he didn't get the roster he wanted by the end of the year. The same thing that he said basically at the end of this year. Like, the whole year we knew we didn't want this roster. We're going to hear the same thing eventually again, even if he doesn't say it, because he's going to feel stupid saying it. We know that that's the case. We know that that's the case. They didn't get who they wanted. So we're going to get another half a year of this.
It's isn't it all kind of pointless? It's just such bad GMing, I feel like, overall for this team. Like, even going back to this whole simple thing, which I'd have still no understanding as to why this happened. What did it provide to them? So them not being able to like keep Sanpias happy on this lineup, which is like don't really have much better offers available. Like were they that convinced that Monacy's coming in that they didn't care? I don't know, but like as an organization, like you need to hedge your bets and have multiple options available. And I feel like Falcons have failed this so hard so many times. And now they're again, the whole concept of like, we're benching 3 players, 4 players, and we're starting from scratch. But we're not starting from scratch. We're bringing in a core that already has their own like kind of system set up, and also problems that we are not even fully aware of. And we are like integrating this into a new lineup. Is like you're not really doing what you wanted to do. So it's not a fan.
This is good though.
It's a roster.
This puts us where
it is a roster. It is 5 players and a coach. It is a roster.
This put us where we started, which is with the what are the odds. So we can bring that back up, Lucas. I apologize for keeping you waiting there, but we can bring this up now.
So very well.
Yeah, I think that was good that we had the preamble. So essentially right now for the segment that we're about to do, presented by 1xBet, what are the odds? And the question is going to be, drum roll please, Falcons keep this roster into season 2 of 2025. So the question here, everybody, is once we get into the tournament break in the middle of the year after the Blast TV Austin Major, all the transfers that are going to happen within that time or earlier, right? Once we are exiting that window and starting the second season, so I guess we'll have to put a date on it, right? Do we think that this Falcons roster will be the same?
This Falcons roster, noting Nico Magic's, Shush, Dexter, and Kixon.
So also, now this is rumored because it isn't confirmed yet, but let's say that this doesn't go through for whatever reason, and we go with no.
This, I guess.
Well, no, fuck it. Let's just
like you actually want to put even the fact that it's not like 100% done yet into, into the pool. Okay,
is it not?
It's not. I mean, as far as we can tell, it is pretty much done, and it is all about like individual deals or whatever. Like it is happening. It looks like, but we know what happened with Nico. I mean, he just decided he's not going to go like at the final minute. So it's not 100% until it's 100%.
I have this question, right? Because this can potentially play into what we're about to do with the percentages. What would this Falcons roster have to achieve within these 6 months? Actually, it would have to be within the first 3 months for them not to change roster.
I mean, they'd have to win some big events. And even then, like if you somehow get, I mean, let's say Katowice is probably not going to be, it's going to be a bit too early for them, and they're not going to put up that expectation on themselves, But let's say, buy off.
But if they're replacing players, you may as well put that expectation, isn't it? But like if we're getting rid of these guys,
like let's say they win Austin.
Yeah.
I think that's like if Monacy becomes available after that, and we're not sure, it's more like, it seems like more towards the end of the year, they're going to get him in anyway, I think. Like if he becomes available, if Head becomes a real option, I think they're going to get him in regardless.
All right. Put a percentage on that, Striker.
So like actual percentage on this?
Yeah.
I'm going to be pretty... The problem is like about the part.
Mate, you just said even if they win the major, you still think they'll change player.
I think once Monacy becomes available, if that's the one that comes through in the end, and that's, I'm not sure what the timeline is on that. So it might be like end of second season rather than end of first season. But let's say, G2 by then will rebuild to a degree that they're confident that they can actually let Monacy go, when he wants to go, like he's wanted to go forever. So they're going to have to let him go if they get decent amount of money. Let's say 35%.
Bro.
Okay.
Not even that low. I would go lower, honestly. I feel like they're not going to have that great of a time, and there's going to be a change in the summer for whatever is available. Maybe it's Tessus, maybe it's even Kixon, maybe it's Dexter. So I'll just put 20%.
I think we should cancel it though if it doesn't go through in the end, like just for that, because I think that's the part that puts this in a weird position. What's right?
35 from Striker.
I said 35, yeah.
Well, Prof, you're the adjudicator on this type of stuff. What do you think with what Striker's saying?
I think if it doesn't come together, then they technically change the roster. Let's just say I think that makes sense. I think that makes sense. But it's not.
I would put
it
probably slightly lower in that case, because I know there's a world.
It's 99%. Doesn't change anything.
Okay, fine. I'll keep it.
Speaking of 99%, give me 1%, Lucas.
Again, he goes hard.
We may as well. It just feels dysfunctional. It just feels dysfunctional. This is what it feels like to me. They've grabbed a core again, right? So that they guarantee that they can play in spots. But 2 out of the 3 players that they've grabbed, I'm pretty sure they would upgrade as soon as they could, if they can. Yeah. That's how I look at this.
But even honestly, like, they could change the entire trio. Like, they will, like, let's say by the end of March, they will have enough results to, change out another player. By June, like by the end of the Austin Major, they will have a chance to change another player, even 2 more players, because they'll have enough results to keep in the VRS. They will keep the core.
The crazy thing is they could literally bring Sunpass in March. They could literally do that.
True.
Yeah, at some point after they get enough results to keep their VRS up, they don't lose all the progress, then they're like, that could be literally the first opportunity for them to change again.
It's a big one. It's a big one here on the line.
It's the biggest we've had, I think.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy what you're putting up here. But okay.
Well, I mean, I would. Yeah.
People
I'm
at home,
not even sure I would go for this at this point. Like, I still think it's so unlikely that they won't.
The people at home, you get to have your say on Twitter or on Instagram. We'll put the polls up, and you can have your vote. And that's going to influence what the kitty, which is the pool of cash money, looks like for you guys to get some more lovely prizes. This is What Are the Odds, brought to you by 1xBet. Falcons keep this roster into Season 2 of 2025. All right. So we've had a chat about that. Let's keep on diving through all the craziness that's going on. So the next piece of the puzzle that I wanted to get into, and this is one of the few teams that have actually confirmed their roster, that is the Conductor Electronic on the Virtus Polar Express. It's Christmas
Sorry,
time,
you're saying he's IGLing? Where'd you get this? Well, he's IGLing?
I'm making some broad assumptions here, Prof. I feel like who else is going to IGL?
I think you should
change another player. So
I think you should shout your mouth if you don't have piece of info, okay?
Actually, Nafany does make a good point. Are you telling me Nafany's going to be joining Virtus Pro? Is that what you're saying?
No, he won't. I don't think they'll make more changes. I'm just joking. I know in the past, Virtus Pro didn't want to comment on their IGL situation, and whenever someone did say something other than them, they would say that they were wrong and refuse to elaborate, more or less. You know what? I think this is horrible.
The roster overall?
Their whole approach, that I even made this tweet. I made this tweet December 5th. I made this tweet. It's a highlight from Flamus. And I said, if James is still in charge of VP, they'll do minus Norbert plus Flamus. It would be so on brand. Get another aggro rifler and make the other one, some previous one, into the passive rifler. Brackets, it's the worst. And they did it. And you know what's the funniest thing? James is no longer there. Dastan is no longer there. It's not even like based in the same country, different CEO, but they still keep only signing aggressive riflers and just like moving other pieces around. And then being like, this aggressive rifler that we had, now that we put him in like passive positions, not really good anymore. I guess we got to change him.
Weird,
I guess we got to change him and just like keep doing this since like 2018. They only do the same move over and over again. It's crazy.
Now, just for those people who haven't been keeping up with the news, they benched James. This was the most recent one, and then that was the most recent. The most recent one was Norbert. Yeah, James happened quite quickly after the major, and then Norbert happened just the other day. And then they added Flamus, and then Cloud9 imploded, and they added Icy, the Kazakhstani, to be the all-pro of the team. So that's the roster completed alongside a Flit, Fame, and Electronic. Now, I think it's kind of key because, yeah, people know the cult of Jame and what was possible, but, you know, they did have competitive events every now and again. Since Electronic's been there, they've just looked like an absolute shit show. But I want to kind of continue down this path you were just discussing with the aggressive riflers. I can't even possibly think about the position or role distribution on this team or how it's going to work. I can't even begin to fathom it. Like I'm at a loss
even
when I'm thinking about it.
Even you, anti-role cell player quality defender, you've been defeated by this lineup.
I guess so.
What was that sound?
I don't know what they like. Are they going to have Electronic and Flamus as the aggressive pieces, like in-game leader and aggro rifler, and then they're going to use Flit and Fame on the extremities, and then Fame was already doing like some anchor work on the CT side, right? And Flit would already. So yeah, okay. Now that
so like, is Flamus going to be anchoring as well? But like on the CT side, he literally is doing the most idiotic sometimes plays on, I don't know, Mirage just re-peeking window 4 times until he dies. Like he's not an anchor. So is Electronic going to be an anchor? What? Flit? Doesn't make any sense. Like Flit has been on rotation spots and been like really good at them forever. But not really now, but this whole year has been dog shit for Virtus Pro. So I don't know how much you can judge of that. But in the history, he's been like top tier rifler.
But Electronic played anchor roles like at different points, or not like exclusively. But I remember Electronic in, you know, playing like pit and stuff in the past. Like I don't know.
But then also, if
he's leading from
the capacity of a fragger that could play rotation roles, and an IGL, if you could have him in rotation roles, you would, because that's like there's a lot of quality information and speed and decision making that you can do. So like if you already have these possibilities, and then putting him on an anchor like a Kerrigan or a Hooksy, it just feels like just doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. And it's not like there's not how many, like 10 really solid Russian speaking riflers out there that fit more logically into this lineup than Flamus.
I'm just looking at the position that he has literally zero in common with Norbert. Well, it's actually zero. It's more Flit. It's more Flit where the overlap is.
I think the bigger point of this is like the Flamus and IC editions. We could discuss those. We could talk about the roles and everything, or where people are going to play. But the big one is the power struggle's been won. It was given over to Electronic. He's been given this is speculation. I don't give a fuck. Right, whatever you want on fucking Telegram. But he's been given control, right? Or it seems that way. So is that the biggest boon in this situation? Like obviously Jame much more proven, major winning in-game leader. Electronic not. But,
I think by historically is definitely not the biggest boon if you look at the Electronics track record as an IGL. I don't think that can be counted as a W in this situation.
So is the team gonna? We should know what are the odds for this. Is the team going to be worse off or better off with these changes from Jame gone to the 2 additions? What do we make of the overall prospects of the roster comparatively?
I think they'll be a bad team. I think this will not survive the half year. I don't think it makes sense as it is. I think Electronic, this is the 3rd time trying to be the IGL. Depending on how but Navi definitely tried, didn't work out long term. Left went to Cloud9. Usurped Nafany. Took over there as IGL, sucked, left, came to Virtus Pro. Based on everything we know, he also IGL'd there at least for a part of the time, even though not really confirmed fully. But like, if there's smoke, there's fire. He had some say in the calling. Didn't work. And now we're like, let's get this guy again to be the main IGL. I have no reason. Like this track record is horrible. Let's just. Why would I believe that this is going to work now?
What if you replaced Electronic with BoombI4? Like just hypothetically speaking, I know that
honestly, it's just better. honestly is better. Honestly, BoombI4 instead of Flamus makes a lot more sense.
It's interesting, right? Because on paper, for me, the firepower in this roster seems more exciting. And I think that the identity of trying to decide which style of Counter-Strike or how are they going to balance electronics, what he was bringing over from the Na'Vi days with the way that James and Co have been approaching the game, and, you know, those really in-tune financial decisions and always playing for 13 as opposed to, you know, Anyway, I
if
think
anything,
that those were issues. Sorry, go for it.
No, go.
I was just going to say, I actually think it'll be better, but because they left the bar so low.
It was a pretty low bar, but I just think it's not, even if it's like marginally better, it'll still be a bad team. This is how I think. And the only positive, like the only way I could see them playing, and this is not like a Na'Vi way of playing, would be something like how Liquid played when they came in now with the new lineup, when they're like super, or like a heroic type of super brawly, just like playing to the strength of like maybe 2 packs, retaking, you know, dry walking into areas, just like going for fights and like risking and playing like a kind of a inverse James style. So not like percentage based, but like vibes based fighting Counter-Strike. Like that would make sense, because then that is kind of where Flamus is really good, because he'll make 5 plays. 1 will be the worst play you've ever seen, and then 3 will work, and 1 will be maybe like a 50-50. So that's and electronics is also like, I feel like he wants to go for fights all the time, and Flit can clean up shit. Fame is not in a great form now, but he's just like he's just going to be the new Norbert Sanji of this Virtus Pro new iteration, whatever.
Yeah, I actually like IC because he was.
You love Amcal, that's why.
Huh?
You're an Amcal fan. You love the Amcal versus Nip.
Right. That's my favorite game of the year, and I actually never watched it. I just know the legend. That's the only thing I know about that game.
2 great series those 2 played.
Yeah, I just watched the highlights. That was enough for me, to be honest.
The low lights.
But I think he just has, like, you can tell he has a very high peak. He has a super high ceiling. Maybe he doesn't hit it all the time, but if he can find that a bit more consistently, I think he's great. I think he'll be one of the big CIS hoppers, or he probably already is, to be honest, one of the big CIS hoppers. So I think in terms of hoppers, I can't really see anybody that they could have gotten that was going to be better than that. So at least that I see as a big positive. And I do agree with Prof with the direction that they're heading. Like Trotty just said, fuck it. Let's leave this James style completely behind and just go the absolute inverse way. And just going brawly. I mean, it has to be that way. Like, it's just too many players that are aggressive for it not to be that way. Flit was already aggressive, and more as a result of the James system, you know, went into much more passive positions and just generally more lurky and all that. So I think they will probably go exactly the opposite way to try to make this work. It will probably be fun. I will give him that, but I don't know if it's going to work.
Yeah, look, this is, I think I said Liquid were one of the ones that like probably were the more underwhelming kind of changes for me. This one's down the bottom, but actually, no, it's not. No, I think it's good that we're past the cult era. I'm glad that that's over. I think that this is where things can start to grow and flourish. I think that maybe this is the necessary change. Whether or not it'll be good with electronic there, but it does now open the door for things to potentially go in that direction in the future. But, gentlemen, there was plenty of winners from this whole Cloud9 implosion scenario. BetBoom, rumored to be potentially getting BoombI4 over there, as well as Axile. And that's going to be with, what is it, Zorti, Siren, and
Magnagus.
Yes, little Magno, which actually seems good. Like, now, obviously, we're dealing with different bars here, but I think that roster for BoombI4 and Axile, I like that more than Cloud9 with Inters.
Sure.
You know, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but it's like HeavyGod, he gets to go to G2, so lucky him. But the Cloud9 with Inters was that no good. No good.
No, that was quite limiting. Like, I don't know what the actual decision here from Cloud9 to like this band is.
Get
like,
the fuck out. That's what I'm saying. It's just madness for them, bro. It's always stuck, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, some of their decisions for a while have been very, very weird. Like ever since the super team kind of situation, it just didn't make a lot of sense. And obviously, they aren't really one to talk much, so never really got any insight into why anything is happening the way it's happening. But seems like obviously the heavy god move to G2 makes sense if they can sell him for decent money. But the rest of the lineup wasn't the end of the world. But I guess then you sell Icy, then you might sell everything, right? Then you're losing two main players. You can still rebuild around BoombI4 and Exile, but then.
But they probably don't want to be rebuilding around like whatever 3 tier 2 players because they can't get anybody else. So
and they also have been rebuilding for a while now. Yeah. But realistically, do you want to go as a player from Cloud9 to BetBoom? Like I feel like that's in like quality of org like two tiers lower. Like I don't obviously now probably different, but like when BetBoom came in with Nafani, they were literally just like 5 players and a coach, no manager, no nothing, right? So getting into that
I don't
kind
know
of
if that matters to be honest.
I mean, it does if your coach can't watch demos and needs to like organize, I don't know, fucking flights and stuff. It's
no,
just
I mean,
like
now at some point I think they probably do have a manager and stuff, like at least the basics, right? But I don't think that Cloud9 necessarily provided a lot of structure to the Russian roster. I mean, they had the Groove running the show effectively, right? And they had a manager and all that, but how much, like, bootcamp facilities, whatever, like I'm sure they never even spent time in America unless they were there for a tournament, and all that stuff. So
I guess for Cloud9 it doesn't really make sense to have a Russian speaking lineup anymore. It doesn't really, like, it is marketing.
It didn't make sense at the time.
I think it's not even marketing wise. I think the reason that it's imploded this fast was because they didn't have such a good major result. It means they're probably going to be outside of the invite cycle at the beginning. And so the players probably didn't want to stay in the first place. They wanted to go somewhere else because they were going to lose a player anyway, and maybe that's what kind of sparked it. HeavyGods gets approached by G2. He's like, yeah, I want to go. IC goes to VP because he feels like that's a better place for him than Cloud9 is. And I mean, looking at the ranking alone, like, you will get much more opportunities to actually play the big events. So why wouldn't you want to go there? And then if you're Exile and BoombI4, like, why would you want to get 3 players from God knows where to try the whole thing again from a complete zero? Like, you don't get any invites. You have to work your way back up. They spent the half a year already, like, on the online scene, basically not having any results, and only at the end of the year they finally get to the major, to show something, and they don't do well enough there, to even keep it into the next year. So I think I'm not even sure if it's necessarily the Cloud9's decision, the organization's decision. I think it's just the result of all the players probably deciding to go their separate ways because all of them had decent enough offers to just try something else.
Yeah, I look, I don't want to spend too much time talking about fucking BetBoom, but what I think the more interesting one out of this whole split for me is HeavyGod to G2.
Oh yeah.
Do you guys find yourself excited by this? Because I see that the general conversation is like HeavyGod for Nico, but it's not HeavyGod for Nico.
That's
it's Malbs taking over Nico's positions, and it's HeavyGod for Malbs. And then in that sense, I'm like, yeah, Monacy's still there. Like, I think we're still cooking with something here. I don't know if we're
so
cooking.
Fucking skilled. Like, this is such a skilled lineup, like incredibly skilled lineup. Even with obviously even considering Nico's out, considering that Bobs is actually going to get into better positions on CT, a lot of the Nico positions, he's going to go up a level, like his difference between CT and T, and that's even after he upgraded. Hello, we have another piece of news.
What?
Pearson benched.
Didn't we know Pearson was benched? Did you say Searson?
Yes. Was it already?
It was already benched. I had that in my news for tonight.
It was a rumor, I think. It was a report.
I guess it was rumored at this point.
Why'd you stop talking about G2 for
I'm sorry.
Like, I thought it was fucking Zaiwu going to Falcons or some shit.
I thought Spigs had a home or something, Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I'll keep going. But I mean, I just think that I was going to say that, like, the difference between Mob CT and Mob T was like 122 versus 107. And that's with him being stuck on anchor, in positions that he probably doesn't want to play. So imagine he goes 120, 120, like, he really is that type of a player. who can make differences on CT once he goes into different positions. So if you also have a very skilled, I'm hesitant to call HeavyG2D an anchor because he had a lot of like mixed positions in his previous teams. So it's not exactly that. So I'm curious if they're just going to make him kind of a heavy anchor, or if he's going to split positions with Hunter maybe in some positions, or whatever it's going to happen exactly. I'm not sure. Or maybe ropz will stay in a couple of anchor positions and then like help HeavyG2D not have to transition completely. But I am pretty excited just because of HeavyG2D really being impressive on the Cloud9 and even on before that on OG. Like you can see that he has what it takes to play on that level for sure.
Hey, Prof, think about this, mate. Last year, I told you going into 2025, the fragging core of G2 would be m0NESY, ropz, and HeavyG2D. Imagine someone told you that at the end of 2023, going into 2024. In a year's time, that's going to be your core. And what is it? m0NESY's 19 and the other two are 22.
Yeah, I mean, m0NESY part,
crazy.
You can believe that it's really good, but for the other two guys, probably wouldn't be too excited. Not like, obviously there was some, it's not like ropz and HeavyG2D were off the radar completely, but I would say a year and a half ago.
But G2, Prof.
Yeah, it wasn't on that. They weren't on that level, let's just say. I don't know. For me, it's can't say it's a downgrade because it's not like they wanted to get. I mean, no, actually, if they wanted to keep Nico, they could have. Let's just say that
they claim as much anyway.
If they wanted to, you know what they say, Chad. If he wanted to, he would.
Yeah, that's true. That's good advice.
Yeah, but it's I feel like it's a decent way of dealing with it because it's not like a like for like replacement, even though plebs will be like trying to do that. It's more like, as you said, reshuffle. I think what is interesting is that now m0NESY is the man there, even though he was already last year. There's always all of the spotlight and the pressure was always like Nico needs to do this, Nico needs to do that. Now it is on m0NESY. Like m0NESY is the only guy that you can turn towards and be like, you know, if you're not performing, we're losing. This is just how it is. And so it's interesting kind of just, I would say not personality, but the kind of the, not even the vibes, but the responsibility in the team and like the icon of the team is m0NESY. And that's just how it is now until he leaves or doesn't leave. So I think that's just interesting. I do not think they'll be as good as they were this year. This is
quite hard, right? You
because
can't replace
like
Nico.
Whatever you're trying to do, just one like if they did another change, and this is how usually, what is it called, the Ewing theory or whatever the fuck.
Yeah,
it's like when you lose a big player, then the team becomes better. Is that usually they sign 2 or 3 different players to upgrade 2 or 3 different positions for 10-15%, and then you can like adjust for losing this 25% off of one player. I think unless they upgrade a Hunter or a Snacks, like they can't be on the same level. That's just how it is.
Yeah. If this had happened like a couple of years ago, I would have maybe thought that it would unlock Hunter a little bit more because of they were in the first place, they were doing a lot of the same things, and that was a big struggle at the beginning of G2, right? When they joined forces, and you know, Nico had to transition more into the pack and like leave Hunter to the looking roles. You know, like Nico went from kind of a hard lurk, not hard, but more like an aggressive lurk to more of a pack guy, and then working from that, right? So it's like if this came 2 years ago when Hunter was still in peak form, I would have said yes, that's probably what's going to happen. But I'm not sure that's going to be the case anymore. You know, Hunter, another one of those players who's more on the way down. I would have expected him to more transition into a more supportive role, if anything. And so I don't, as much as I think he can still perform at a decent level. You know, I don't expect him to suddenly become the main star or like one of the main rifle stars. You know, so I'm not sure if that's actually what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's a tough one to be able to project how this is going to go. But my main takeaway is G2 got off better than I expected. I thought they were going to be left in a bit more of a hole, right? If they got someone who was average, I think HeavyG2D is good and can be great. right? Like I think he could be a very good player because we've only seen him a small amount at the upper echelons.
Funnily enough,
I
he changed two teams in a year, like from Endpoint to OG for 6 months, and then to Cloud9 for 6 months, and now into G2.
Yeah, so obviously they're seeing the potential of this guy as well. So look, I think they're in a better position than I thought they were going to be in going into 2025. So that's a win in my books. So I'm excited to see how they look and how much Malbs can deliver. And yeah, I think you're spot on. Monacy needs to be that guy. I think having the experience of Hunter and Snacks there is actually good because the other three are so young too. So it kind of has a nice balance to it.
I have just one thing to say on this, because obviously we have now a lot of like almost confirmed hard rumors. I honestly think EliGE to G2 would have been the play for G2. I think they should have gotten him. I think that would be not necessarily even either for HeavyGod or also for like Hunter. I think that would be a sick lineup. I think that would be maybe a profile where they could have then Malbs and EliGE be like the aggressive two players, and then the rest kind of works itself out.
See, this is the thing though, right? Like, what if I was going to say, like, if you had, because this is the next piece. We're going to be getting into the loose pieces next. Where the fuck is Spinks going? Like, what if, because you're talking about EliGE in place of Hunter. Okay, that's an aggressive piece. But what about Spinks in place of Hunter?
Yeah, that could also work. Especially
obviously
like
it's a different type.
TT side, they also fit maybe a bit more. Like Spinks plays rotation
a lot
stuff.
Of rotation and stuff. Yeah.
Hunter likes to play that, and then on the T side, they also they're pretty much the most similar two players I can think of in like top 5-6 teams. So I think that would be a pretty reasonable.
Let me use Harry's cheat sheet just for a moment, because I also think should be a very close fit. Curious just how well it fits.
But where is Spinks going? Well, Striker looks at
I legitimately have not heard a single rumor in that direction.
Has he just killed his career?
That's not
because he didn't want to play with Apex that badly. He just fucking shot himself in the foot.
He will get.
Because I think
feel like he has to end up somewhere, right?
Heroic need to build a whole new lineup, right? And they could literally rebuild almost ENCE in Heroic. Like, people are joking about it, but I think it's completely reasonable for Saw to go like, yeah, Sunpius, yes, Spinks, yes, Snappy, why the fuck not? And then you have pretty much, then you add Shush and you add like one more player, and that's it. It could even be Madden.
I've seen people saying the Snappy, Madden, Sunpius with Spinks and Shush, right? Because if you took Snappy, Madden, and Sunpius, you won't get the core of Falcons, will you? Because Simple played. So there's a problem. Like, otherwise you could have had the core of Falcons, but you can't.
Simple.
So what about Simple, Shush, Snappy, Spinks?
I mean, based on what I know,
sounding that crazy.
I think
it's not sounding that crazy.
I think Simple wouldn't even mind that kind of a team. Like, I think he didn't have any problems with fucking fireworks, bro. Insane. Hate it. Anyway, I don't think he had any problems with Snappy. Obviously, aside from that one clip from Play Like Simple, which we can ignore. But like in recent times, this little stay with Falcons, I think he wouldn't mind playing with Snappy and this kind of a lineup. And honestly, that might be the best offer he's going to get.
But this is the thing, right? So in this little segment I want to talk about now, this is where any of these names, like I've just jotted these down. I've got Jax, Hooksy, James, Nexa, Yakinda. Now I know some of these players are benched and not necessarily free agents, right? But Simple's in that mix there, and again, bench, not a free agent. There's a lot of players who are in those categories. Are there any names that are swirling around that we think have any level of excitement that are going anywhere? Because I feel like we've just, we play musical chairs and everybody has their seats at the table right now. To discuss on Mouse, they don't appear to be changing anything. Spinks is in the breeze. Where the fuck is he going? Well, Spirit aren't going to make any changes. Plus, they would only have Russian speakers. Liquid, are they done with their changes? Like what? And then as you start going wider and wider, what are you even looking at? Like, no one's going to go play for Complexity or like Game of Legion. None of these names that we're talking. So it feels like a lot of big names are going to miss the boat unless they're happy to, like, Fnatic is a name that, you could be, but they don't strike me as an org that's willing to spend money. So I don't know. Like a lot of these names that I've just listed, it feels like they're just going to have to be building their own thing.
Weren't they connected with anyone? Someone for body? No? Am I missing something?
Yeah, there was
wasn't it Waro? No.
Fnatic
Where did I hear the
with
Waro thing?
Kita. This was a thing.
Yeah.
That's already I mean,
Oh,
that was
Fear.
Fear to Fnatic.
yeah, of course. That was the rumor.
That's not I think that's like a decent one.
Yeah.
I think that could be a good punt from Fnatic on a new kid. But like even, you know, Jambo, U-Jerks, especially a few of these saw kids could definitely be on a radar for a little rifling upgrade or creation of a new team like Heroic, right? They should be on that. I mean, that's the thing. Like,
but they're going to have to start from scratch, though.
As much as I mean, but where are they going to be? Otherwise, all of these players are either not playing for anyone or starting from scratch. Someone needs to start. Like, not everyone can have invites. It's not how it works.
Yeah,
true.
So someone needs to start. Heroic, obviously, based on everything we know, they're starting from zero. So they are going to be the team out of like, they're the biggest org that doesn't have a team now, right? So I think they're going to be kind of picking first from these leftovers.
Wait, who are you saying?
Heroic.
Ah, okay.
Like
that's assuming they continue. I mean, it's going to be a big rebuild.
I think they are. Like I think they are. That's
okay.
my vibe. I don't know.
Okay. I looked into the Sphinx Hunter thing. They are, out of the 5 maps that they have shared on CT, they have 4 of the same positions. The only difference is CT Anubis, which is Hunter plays B anchor, Sphinx is B connector. Otherwise, they have just 2 both mid, Inferno both the A rifle, outside of Pit, I mean the roaming guy. Mirage B short, Nuke, they're both door guys. And then T side is the same thing. 4 out of 5, they are the same. Anubis B extremity, just 2 upper B. Inferno apps, Mirage B extremity, and then Nuke is the only one different, where Sphinx is lobby and Hunter is silo.
G2's Anubis CT setup was dumb anyway. They had fucking Snacks anchoring A and Nico middle. So
right, yeah.
You could just move Snacks over to be the B anchor, put
I'm just saying
pop,
this would be
should anchor
this
A.
would be a great fucking upgrade. Like I like Hunter for or what he brought to G2, but I feel like there's a world where they move away from that, and that's like it seems like it's such an obvious upgrade.
Well, we'll see what happens because Sphinx has to find a home, right? So
I mean, imagine they do that, you know, and then you have Sphinx and HeavyG2D for Hunter and Nico. I mean, that starts becoming like that starts being something like that starts being.
Yeah,
you could think that could outperform this G2 from last year.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think so. I think that like there would be some good moves to make for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think they will though, but we'll have to wait and see. Yeah. So a couple of the other names, maybe we'll see what they're connected with before we talk about it too much. Because I think Prof's right. There are going to be some orgs or some teams who are going to make some changes. Some who are going to try and build some stuff. So we'll have to wait.
The Cooksey one is really rough. Like I do think he should be on a team, but also.
But where?
There's not many. Like there's no real team on the top. Like.
I mean, Heroic would be now, yeah.
Heroic is the only one that makes sense, right? Like, I don't think Complexity wants to like pay a European player in this role when JT is not bad anyway, so it doesn't really make sense. And they need to replace EliGE, so they have other priorities, like where M80 already have that player on the lineup anyway. Cloud9's dead, so Fnatic, but they could have also gotten him already. And that, like, I don't know if he doesn't want to do it or they don't want to do it. But I think that's probably the best he can find right now.
Yeah, that's reasonable. I saw someone asking about kyousuke before. I saw something on Twitter saying that he's going to stay with the Spirit Academy for another year.
It's like the Spirit's scout / talent guy, whatever, as well. As
reporter.
Well as Leaker. He said he's staying for the season.
Did you see my funny reply to him the other day?
I didn't.
No, I didn't. I'm trying to be off social media.
It wasn't funny, but it was funny at the same. It was supposed to be funny. He wrote this tweet. The tweet was like, Spirit are not changing into the new year. And I just replied, is this a report or like official statement? He was like, I don't understand how he can be like a reporter, leaker, insider, whatever, and then also literally be on the stage lifting a major trophy with the team. Like, it doesn't really make sense. It's like, in my opinion, if he's stating this is like officially from Spirit. I don't know what else to say.
No, that's fair.
I just saw that. I was just looking through the tweet. There's a response that I will not repeat on live on air. But like, people can find that tweet and then find Overdrive's reply to that and the guy's reply to Overdrive, and you guys will see what I'm talking about.
What did I want to mention? Oh, I was thinking about something. I don't know. Other than that,
well, we got a couple more. I call them chump changes for this category.
Okay.
Right?
We didn't talk about the blast stuff. We have to talk about that at least briefly. We can talk about that briefly.
I just want to quickly go over these. So Alistair got benched. I don't think this had happened last time we had done an episode here.
I don't think so.
Just on this one, I think that he actually in the last 6 months had made improvements. Comparatively to be fair to him, like he did actually make improvements. In terms of him being replaced, I was one of the people saying that I think him and EliGE should be replaced. But I think that to be fair to Alistair, he did make improvements in the last 6 months, and so that's tough because I understand like the way it goes. If you're not in the top Australian team, then you're not really playing at all anymore. So I don't know what comes next for him. Maybe if Talon wanted to give him a chance, if they don't want to keep using MHL or whatever, I don't know. That would probably be the only thing that makes sense down there. And they added Regali, that got announced today. So just, I don't think there's really anything to discuss with that, but just to touch on it. And then big as well. They big,
right? I mean, Regali is a guy we kind of had on the radar, like around the Copenhagen Flames times, but he hasn't really done too much with OG.
It's not an exciting signing. Is it better than Alistair? Maybe.
Possibly.
Probably.
Maybe.
Right? Like, but we haven't really seen it, so we'll have to see. And then
I have a thought. Yeah, this came back to me. Do you think this is my take? I think Kyousuke should be loaned to Heroic.
What, just to get, wouldn't it
get some reps in?
Oh, the problem with Heroic is that you don't really have a team that's going to get any reps in, so it's all going to be the same online grind as he would have in Spirit Academy. So I don't feel like, if anything. So here's actually what I think why Spirit will not do that, which is that Spirit Academy is now ranked. Where are they? Let's say
47
Academy, 47, right? They get one decent result, like at one of these tournaments. Like they're gonna get like a couple of decent results at tier 2. They're gonna get somewhere close to the invite, or they will
whenever
maybe
Spirit
qualify for something. Yeah, exactly. Spirit skip a tournament. Spirit Academy maybe pulls off a miracle, qualify for it, or they do well enough in the tier 2. Because they will get enough opportunities that they will get into the invite kind of bracket, and they will play whatever the main team doesn't. And Kyousuke gets some reps there. Of course, it's still a long shot because they haven't really performed to a level where they can get into these big events. But there's going to be so many of them that eventually they will get into something like the fucking Sky Sports, the Compass, some of these tournaments. Like they will get into and they will play and they will potentially get into the LAN part. Kyousuke was going to get his reps there. So I think that's the idea for Spirit.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, that'll be exciting to see, and that's going to all be a factor of how next year works. Now, we've almost been going for 2.5 hours. Let's leave the ESL 2025 and 2026 stuff until next time, because next time I guess we'll be discussing next year when we'll be in next year. So, but yeah, we can talk about the Blast Bounty invites, but mainly this is to do with the Imperial female stuff. I'd imagine, Prof. Is that where we were going with this?
My thoughts were, I was talking to Striker about this. I want to raise an offense regarding the way the wildcard invite for Falcons was handled.
Okay.
So, because this is the question I asked to you. You are an expert in Counter-Strike. You know a lot of details. Like, you're the top 0.1% of professional watchers of Counter-Strike. So you know a lot, right, Chad?
Okay.
Based on what did they get invited to this event?
Nico.
Yeah, that's not according to the rules. You can't invite like that. So you need like 3 players. Which 3 players were they invited? Because like who is invited? Falcons. Who is Falcons?
So,
because Falcons said
what,
that they only have Magics on their roster, and you can't play 1v5, even though some players
let's reverse
try.
engineer though. Let's reverse engineer though. Okay, so what are we? What?
No,
why do
but
we
this
have?
is the problem. Why do we have to reverse engineer? Shouldn't it be like
because we're policing
required?
ourselves. No,
Yes,
because we know the rules aren't like that. That's not. We know that Valve have quite clearly said, and I'm sure they've said it to all 3 of us, that with these type of things, they're more guidelines than hard rules. They're not hard rules.
This is us policing ourselves. And in my opinion, if you're putting out an invite, you should say
has to be a hard
these
rule,
are the 5 players that were in, like this is the core.
Why though? Why when you think of a wildcard invitation to an event, what is the purpose of said wildcard invitation?
It is to get like players that are really good and that couldn't qualify otherwise.
Okay,
and like they can invite these players at any time. You know, there's no. They obviously left one spot empty, and one.
Why
was
is your
reserved for
assumption?
Falcons.
Why is your assumption that it has to be good players? What if it was
I mean,
like the
that's based
old
on the rules.
NIP team?
But that's based on the rules. It
Okay.
has to be in the past 12 months. It has to be a core of 3 players who were at least top 8 in the VRS or a tier 1 event in the last 12 months.
Yeah, so it's not like completely. It's not completely up to the TO. It has to be based on like these players need to be decently good based on objective metrics, and these metrics are pretty. I would say pretty flexible. You can. It's not like elite best. So pretty much any pretty good lineup should be able to get a wildcard invite. But it just, in my opinion, it just opens up. Like we just started this year, and we're already kind of in the gray area of like who is even being signed up for this.
Yeah, but we know we're in there. But we're in that with a lot of areas, right? So
yeah, but like I think
let's focus on.
It's a very simple thing to just be like, we invited Falcons, they submitted this lineup, and the lineup might be the lineup that they're not going to use, but at least know who is submitted and why they're there, and not just leave it like completely up to speculation. And because like this is Blast and this is, you know, Falcons are pretty like top. This event is kind of in the public scrutiny, but if we don't do this for this event, then what's going to happen if future events or smaller events that no one really cares about? I feel like then there's going to just open even more space to, you know, do some shady stuff. That's kind of what I'm not like, oh, this is absurdity. Obviously Falcons 95% will have a lineup that is worthy of a wildcard invite, but we should know who this is, why it is, just have some transparency going. That's all I'm asking for.
I think that this is kind of a go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, before you said the core of a team, Striker, do you mean like the core being 3 individuals who are part of different teams? They don't have to be part of the same.
It can be that. It can be just 3 individual teams who were part of top 8 teams in the past 12 months. Of the top 8.
3 individual players that are part of teams.
Yeah. So it's not a core. It is
like
but they make up the core.
Yeah, let's say we brought together. I mean, it could have been like Magic Kids already does apply because Falcons were top 8 after Katowice last year. So that's within the last 12 months. Nico obviously applies, not only a winner, but also top 8, you know, so that he applies. You could have brought ropz, whatever, and that would have been enough for your wildcard invite because he is a winner. He was on a top, even he fulfills both. You only have to fulfill one of them, not both, by the way. Okay. So either top 8 or winner. I mean, if you win an event, you're probably going to be a top 8 ranked team anyway, you know, but obviously there might be situations where that's not the case.
Yeah, okay, because like I thought that the wild card thing was just invite whoever the fuck you want.
No,
right. So
that's the problem of it, you know, like because Valve's entire premise behind the circuit next year is that you cannot just put whoever you want in your tournaments. You cannot feed teams without having being objective, but without it being objective, right? And these wildcards are only the fraction of that part. So you can say that like they've just allowed the tournament organizers some leeway in terms of, you know, making their events better, just because, you know, some of these teams are just not going to qualify, or not going to be able to be to qualify because new rosters and all that stuff. But I agree from the perspective that it should be more transparent, in that we should at least know whether they invited the old core that is now not part of the team, officially at least, and based it on that, or like kind of in advance being promised that they will fulfill that requirement, and inviting them based on that, because I actually don't have such a big problem with that promise, as long as if it isn't fulfilled, you will cancel
and they
that
forfeit
invite.
This.
They
Yes,
have to forfeit the invite if it isn't fulfilled, right? In this case, it will not even end up mattering, because they'll get the heroic core, they'll get the heroic invite. But Blast will have to invite somebody instead of Falcons for that wild card, probably the next team in the ranking, because there's probably not going to crop up any other new core that they could invite as a replacement for Falcons, right? And they still didn't actually even announce the other wild card that they promised that they would, right? So I feel like in this situation, because we are in the transition, I kind of understand that first of all, we are in the transfer period, so this is like kind of a special event where we don't know all the rosters. I would rather have that team there once they actually do fulfill it, rather than skip them just because they don't have the roster 100% confirmed a month in advance. Like I would really rather have that team there because they will have that quality. So I don't really want to be so strict in limiting them to such a degree that you either have to have that lineup in time for the invite date, or you just don't get the invite,
something like a tentative invite or something like that. That could be the phrasing of what we're talking about. Like, they have currently 1-2 players that's fulfill, and they promise to have one more, and then we are just waiting for the official confirmation or something. I think that would make sense, essentially. That's it.
Yeah. I'm just the one part that I'm worried about is if something like that happens and then that invite comes through anyway, because I'm not sure Valve would especially in a 32 team event, I'm not sure Valve would step in and just like, you're not going to get a license just because one team barely doesn't fulfill the requirement. I'm not 100% sure that they would actually step in and do something about it and just prevent them from doing that. And we know from the past that Blast are very fast and loose with rules in general from multiple occasions.
That's a good descriptor.
So
that is a good descriptor, yeah.
I would be very careful. Like, I would really think that they would be working against themselves if they didn't end up allowing it. They would piss off a lot more people especially after the whole Australia situation, how they got KDN in, instead of Bro and all that, that caused a massive ruckus even among the teams, So I would imagine that they wouldn't want to piss off all the teams again, because it would be terribly unfair if Falcons got the invite and didn't fulfill the requirement, It would literally take away a spot from another team that would be high enough in the ranking, or does fulfill the requirement.
And then it could have a big impact on points.
Of course. And so, of course, it would be terrible. It would be really unfair if they didn't. But as long as they do fulfill it or would fulfill it in the end, I'm kind of okay, especially at this time when we are in the transfer period. And that's always going to be a bit awkward in terms of what can you make work, what you cannot make work. And, it's still better for the scene of a team of that caliber is in that tournament, So I'm much less of a purist in that perspective for this.
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing, because these things are going to crop up, right?
Yeah.
And the only way that this is going to get to Valve is there's going to be a few ways, right? Obviously, the direct lines of communication that we have saying, hey, can you look into this? This doesn't seem quite right. Or the community making threads and being big conversations about this and those dialogues going through. But you are bang on that these companies are going to try blast of this is the problem I have. As soon as I start talking about other TOs and decision making, I have to worry about like a horde of people going, you're an ESL shit, right? So exactly. So it's quite tough for me to take those hardline stances. Blast don't hire me, so sorry everybody. I would work for them, but they don't hire me as a caster. So I think that it's one of these things where we definitely need to be really diligent, but I also think there is a point which you're touching on here about picking the battles at certain points, right? And if this did go the way you were saying, that would be the worst case. They didn't have that core and they got that invite. Then something would need to be done. Like they you can't be getting away with that. But in this scenario, I guess it all works out in the wash. But we'll just have to monitor it. The things that I don't like is, and you'll have to help me out here because we were talking about this a while ago, is like that Star Ladder event that's scheduled for just before the first major. And you said that that's likely not happening, but they went out there and it's scheduled and it's in the calendar.
Yeah.
I don't like that. The whole point is
mean-
we're meant to have the calendar so we can plan the year. But if there's fake events in the calendar, it's fucking bullshit. This isn't like we were doing it before COVID, because before COVID, I used to have to bribe people who I knew to get, like, not literally bribe because that sounds bad. I had to beg people to give me access to the calendar so I could see when the events were going to be in advance. And what these TOs would do is they'd all just block out different areas in the calendar so that they'd have their dates.
They're not there, though.
doing that.
But it's not actually in that calendar. I saw it. So it is. That's why I'm saying
But
it
it's
is
on your
very likely
website.
removed. Yeah, but because they haven't actually said anything, we tried getting in contact that they didn't say it's canceled outright, so we don't. I can base it off of the calendar, but we don't know that for sure. That's why I said it's very likely canceled, but I've never actually heard about it. So it is not.
I think Chad's point stands.
It stands 100%. Like they should have said it.
Yeah, you don't need to like know every bit of information in the world to need to be in every secret Google sheet or whatever to run a tournament. That doesn't make sense. Should be public information.
Yeah.
But that's the whole point of all of this, is it's meant to better inform everybody, whether that be the viewer, whether that be the player, whether that be the orgs, on the decisions that everybody wants to make in terms of how they consume Counter-Strike. And it just feels like if we're just going to throw anything out there and then there's no punishment for saying we're going to run an event and then we cancel it. So that's fucking dog shit. I just say I'm running an event all the time.
Yeah. I mean, of course, you could do that, but eventually you're not going to get any teams because they're not going to have any faith in you actually being able to run it. So in the end, it kind of works itself out because
but
people will just self-regulate in that sense,
I was being extreme, right?
Of course.
Like, obviously,
but also
you needed to fake a couple of occasions.
Yeah, but it's also for other people in the scene. It's not just for the teams themselves. And also by that time, you don't know if you're going to be in the ranking to be able to play there. I mean, you can't really plan that far ahead for a lot of the teams that might play there. So, and for casters, whatever it is, all that stuff. So I understand it. I get it. It would be nice if for people as well. I mean, if there are fake events out there on the calendar, it's not a good thing either.
Do we want to wind this up, gentlemen, or do we want to?
Yeah. Do you want to add anything about the Imperial female invite?
No, I did want to. I did, because when I was doing the talking counter with Jason and Yanko, I said that there wasn't gender-specific tournaments in the VRS, which apparently is wrong.
Yeah, that is based on what I've heard. Not like I was also expecting, ESL Impact to exist in like the unranked.
Yeah.
But that's it. Look, it's not fair. Like, that's all I want to say. This is literally not fair.
Yeah,
it is kind of weird. I don't understand why. Like, the way they're looking at it. So there's a reason why they don't want it to be unranked, and there's a rule for unranked events. I should have asked this in maybe more detail, but the rule for unranked events is like you can only do 100K per year per tournament organizers in unranked events. So ESL Impact just one season would be too much. It would already be over this level. So then it needs to go into the ranked events. But then they're allowing there to be like a filter essentially for events, which can be based on different things. And in this case, the filter for this event is going to be like women only tournament.
Yeah, we've already seen the impact of that with the bounty invites.
But it's still going to work off the VRS. So like the invites will work off of VRS. So like wherever,
my second season, I think the first one, I think still remains in some way transitional. And
there are some leftovers. Yeah. But the invites will work based off of the VRS. So I don't see how that makes sense, because obviously this tournament is going to be much lower in terms of quality, but it's still going to give VRS points. Why is that the exception that is being made? Instead, the exception, we can just allow for more prize pool in an unranked event, because realistically, in like logically looking at it, it does exist in its own bubble, unconnected to like main Counter-Strike. So in my sense, it just and also it would allow them to run the tournament in any way they wanted to. Like they wouldn't have to like go through all of these hoops of like how many teams do you invite from which region and all of these things. They could do a lot of these things differently. So in my opinion, weird decision.
It needs to be addressed. I feel like it's obviously intentionally written, but it needs to be addressed. Like the fact that you can have any influence on who's getting invited to the events is insane. Like, I don't know if I can't believe it's real. When someone put that in the thread after, and I read that, I went, how is that real? Somebody justify it to me. Because I can't see any form of justification. It's literally exclusive. That's what we're trying to avoid, and they've just created it again. Like, I
just don't see the benefit. I don't see the benefit of it. I don't see who is win. I don't think those points are legitimate, because it's obviously going to be, the level competition is, based on everything we know, so much lower than in open tournaments. So it doesn't feel needed. And, there was some discussion last year about like, oh, you can't have, what was it, like, a FlyQuest Red qualifying for, but they can't play qualifiers for the major because FlyQuest main is playing. Yeah. But it's like, it is, there's so many levels of competition between where ESL Impact is now and the major, that it's not really necessary for them to play major qualifiers. There's like 4 levels of tournaments below that where they can play with no limitations. And then if they earn points through that, then there's no, then they will get to the major, right? I think it's just a weird like decision, not really connected to where the women's scene is right now, if I'm completely honest. So that's that.
Yeah. I don't know. It's always going to be one of these tougher topics, but it just.
I mean, this is also like
the principle.
Yeah. Also, like, I want to say, obviously, coming from me, I watched a bunch of Impact. Like, I think it's a great thing. Like, we pushed for like the women's awards and stuff like this. So nothing against the concept. I think concept is great, and I think it should continue. There's also like, that's where it is this year, and the changes and stuff is like a whole discussion that is interesting. But I don't think it makes sense to essentially value those wins in the prize pool that they're pretty much equally to like a tier 2, tier 3 tournament, which we saw with the ISF women's tournament, what kind of impact it had on the ranking. So I just think it's not correct ranking. And realistically, as everything, Valve will see how it is, and then they'll adjust. So it will probably be adjusted through like 6 to 12 months. But
yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, that's the idea that we got as well from talking to them, right? That they just need evidence that is wrong, effectively, and that then they will do something about it if it is, right? So that's something sometime down the line. Of course, I mean, it's already affecting tournaments now, and I mean, we are in the transitional period, so there's going to be some leeway where some learning. I do think that it is pretty illogical from the first place, and I was kind of shocked that they didn't see that, because like I had a couple of thoughts about it, because effectively, if you're playing any local tournaments, that will end up being like tier 2 local tournaments will end up being ranked effectively, right? So because some of them might overall for the year, they might actually go over that limit. So maybe they'll try to make them ranked, and you can filter. We were just talking about that with Lucas. So on the side, you can filter by country on those events. So in theory, how is that different from filtering by gender? By filtering by just country, if you're keeping it to tier 2 events. So like technically it is within the rules, it is within the understanding, but I'm sure that once we get to a certain point, it's going to be clear that there's a disconnect, between the level. So there will have to be an adjustment at some point. So I'm just curious about when that's going to come, because it might take a while.
Yeah. Okay. Well, at the risk of being one guide, let's turn it off before I get too upset at someone saying that it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
I mean, it'll be interesting to watch. A lot of pressure, more pressure than ever. Wouldn't want to be in Imperial's shoes. I do know that they're doing, I think, 10 plus days boot camp in Belgrade. So I wish them good luck. Hope they do something, but it's not going to be easy. That's for sure.
They're also picking opponents, right? Because they're going to be somewhere at the bottom, in the bottom half. So that's going to be interesting. I'm curious who they're going to pick.
Yeah, but they'll be one of like the last teams to pick, won't they?
It's like somewhere halfway because they're 24 now, right? So it would have been, they're going to be eighth.
They're 24 out of 32 teams.
Yeah, eighth in line to pick, I guess,
It's not
the
a big
opponents,
deal,
right?
guys. It's not a big deal.
It's
all right. It's not a big deal.
No, they're not 24th.
They are not. They are 24th.
It's not a big deal, Prof. It's not a big deal.
They're getting into Katowice.
That's so crazy.
They are getting into Katowice. I mean,
I just wanted to say one more thing. I wanted to say one more thing about this. And I honestly did not expect them to take this invite. But one reason why I understand why they're taking it is there is literally financial incentive just to take the invite in terms of like support, like travel support and like attendance fee and stuff like this. So in some ways, saying no is like like saying no to like $10,000, $15,000 or something like that. I don't know the exact number. So in some ways, even if they just go and play and lose, it is worth quite something. And obviously the salaries in women's scene are not that great anyway. So they need whatever they can get.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, we'll be back next Monday. I don't know what time we're going to do just yet, but we'll see. We'll see what's lining up. Yeah, and then we'll be looking a bit more at 2025 and what's going to be happening. I want to dig into what ESL have for their 2025 program and the 2026 dates. I think there's some interesting stuff in there, especially with when they've announced Cologne for 2026. So we can talk about the next one. And then there was also a thread. I've saved the link so we can bring that up, and that's going to be discussing the schedule next year and returning to some of those same discussion points that we've had in the past. All right, cool. So we talked about a lot tonight. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Thanks to 1xBet, thanks to Skin Place, thanks to Lucas, thanks to Prof, thanks to Striker, thanks to all of you lovely faces at home. Hope everybody's having a good Christmas and now into the New Year's break. And we'll see everybody in the new year, 6th of January. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a quick 7 days. See you then. Good night.
But one thing remains the same: victories with 1xBet.
Sell in-game items at the best prices in just a couple of clicks. We are the biggest instant sell service for in-game items like Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, and Rust. Easy selling process and instant withdrawal of funds to the most popular payment methods. More than 140,000 deals and 50,000 active sellers every month. Use promo code HLTV5 and get a 5% bonus on the sale of your skins. Skin Place. Sell items now.
Since the dawn of CSGO, we have been there. Observers of all that competition can reveal. Elation, fear, triumph, and heartache reach out from every frame. From the small studios and conference rooms to the epic arenas, the feeling is still the same. We live and breathe this game. This was CSGO Through the Lens. Buy now at HLTV.org/shop.